You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Well, this has been quite the week. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Like, what's going on, Philly? What's going on, America? What's going on in the world? Oh my goodness. You know, you think you know, right? And then things just go in a very interesting direction. So, I'm in the press, the blogs are talking, the streets are talking, there's just so much going on. And I can't wait to dive into a lot of it. I definitely, it was like, how do I just, what they say, Clarissa explains it all. Ernest explains it all, I know a lot of you all were messaging me over the weekend, just texting me like, I need this podcast to drop. You gonna give us a special edition and you gonna listen. I said, no, I'm gonna put it all on one episode and explain it all because, I have been dropping a lot of surprises and this stuff is coming out. Y'all like, wait, whoa. It's just so much. And so I gotta love the podcast because in a way, one, I can talk about the news and what's going on in the world and how I feel about it, but also I can explain a lot of the things that come out for me because I guess I'm someone of public note. So I want to talk about just because the things that I do want to talk about, I feel like they're news. So I'm going to put them in the, the hot topics section. But I want to talk about just, some places I've been to before, we'll start there. So I went to Sin this weekend, this week. I got a sneak peek at Sin, which is Steak Italian Nightlife, which is in Northern Liberties. This is brand new nightlife, restaurant, all this jazz. They stay open till like 1 a.m., which is a big deal for the Fishtown or the Liberties area. The restaurant has become a little controversial because people are like, what in the hell is this fancy restaurant doing in Northern Liberties? Because Northern Liberties typically have, burgers and nachos and tacos, but they don't really do like a fine dining type of situation. I mean, there are some restaurants, I suppose, but I really can't think of the last like really fine dining restaurant I went to in Northern Liberties. Every time I go to Northern Liberties, I think of like Anejo, I think of Set No Libs, like the bagel shop. But those are not bad places. Those are pretty good places actually. They're fun to eat. I don't have any complaints there. But like I don't recall like sitting at a restaurant, like sitting down and the vests and the servers and 30 different wine options. That I don't recall in Northern Liberties. In my experience there. And so it was very unique. I did an exclusive sneak peek. I tried some of the menu. I spoke with the owner, who's a 30-year-old guy. He's a developer. His name is Justin. And I think it's Varsia Varney or whatever, but like his name is Justin. He's 30. And it's been interesting. His interview with me has gotten a lot of attention. People are just kind of like, having mixed thoughts. They're like, he talked about how he's traveled around the country. He's been to like Miami, New York, LA, Vegas. I mean, he's been traveling, right? And he was just saying like how, he was very hype about how he doesn't feel like there's a restaurant that meets the energy of those cities. Debatable by some, debatable by many. But he says, look, I'm bringing something to Philly that has not been here before. And he called it vibe dining, which became its own conversation. People are like, what is vibe dining? What is that? But, but the way he puts it, and I thought this was interesting. The restaurant is pretty. I think the restaurant looks good. It's a good looking restaurant. We'll talk about the food in a second, but the restaurant itself is gorgeous. It's a very nice looking restaurant. They got a private room. Look, I saw myself in it personally. I saw myself in the restaurant. Like I felt like I saw myself, there. Um, but without being a reporter covering it, but like it's a place that I definitely would go. It's a place that I believe my friends would go. Of course, I went with one of my lit brothers, Josh East Philly. We both tag team and went just to check it out, and it was a vibe, right? So what do you mean by vibe dining is that he says that there that the restaurant is not a nightclub, right? But it has a nightclub ambiance in the sense that there's going to be so there could be elements of live music. There's always going to be a nice vibe and flow, right? But no one's dancing. It's not a huge party, but people are sitting and eating their dinner. But it's this cool intimacy that's there, but also this funness that's there across. Like you really want to walk in a room and it's a vibe, I guess. That's the energy. And I mean, looking at the place, it is that atmosphere. Like this is a place you want to go to be seen. This is a place that, fly folks are gonna be there. Like the people he have serving the bottles, the bottle girls, they look like models. It's a certain type of energy, and I think it's interesting to see how it goes. Right, stuff like this, or I consider, experiments. Right, this could be a big deal that could easily. It's in this interesting position where it can set the trend for the next, dozen of restaurants that come in the next couple of years, right? If it's super successful, or it could be an epic flop, and a lot of people might be like, "This is not for Philly. Send that shit back to New York," and it could go left, right? But it's interesting. I'm fascinated with restaurants that have concepts or take risks. We need more of that. There's a lot of people that play it safe. There's elements of this restaurant that it is a risk, right? And it's interesting as a journalist, as someone who covers restaurants and food and all of that. It's always fun to see something, like that. You don't know, right? Those are the fun stories. Covering stuff. I mean, I'm not throwing shade to any restaurants, but there are some places that, when they come, it's going to be good. It checks off all the things off the book. There's no real story. It's just kind of like, oh, we want to make good food. Yeah, food's good, it's fun, whatever, cute pictures. But there's never anything more than that, right? This is different. This is having everything about this restaurant is just it's and I'm not saying this as like I'm rating everything. I'm just saying that the whole rollout has been iconic. I haven't seen folks go up in arms about a restaurant with all of this since I want to say Steak 48. I can't remember the last time there was like a restaurant that had this type of energy, the attention to it. Like there have been great openings, right? Like High Street's return, which we'll talk about that later in the podcast. But there's other restaurants that have come and they're great, like Pod Return. It's fine. It was great. No shade, right? But the whole everything about this place and the energy is getting. I would say the last time was Jim's West, but that wasn't a restaurant. It was like a cheesesteak situation. But I just can't think of anything that's been like this in a long time. And so it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to cover. And I'm telling y'all, I think everyone should go. I think everyone should try it. Grown, sexy. I dig it. I ain't gonna hold you. I dig it. I get what he's trying to do. I don't know if it's like a millennial thing and parents just don't understand. I don't know. I just feel like I dig it. I get what he's trying to do. And I ain't gonna hold you. Like I'm 32, but I'm a married 32, right? And that matters. A married 32 is different from a single 32. And there's no judgment on status or anything. I'm saying that I've realized I can't stay out too late. I'm just not crazy about staying out too late. Unless I am, in my zone. Like if I'm out at a private club, I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little pampered. I don't know. But I'm in my mind like, oh, everybody, like, we could go out for drinks. I'm married to a man who has a bartending company. Like I don't have to go to the bar super, super late. Also, maybe it's because of the fact that when I do go out, it's a lot of, you know, it's never. I mean, sometimes, like, okay, so I'll give you an example. So a week ago during the gala, which was fabulous, of course, and the pictures are out. I'm in love with them all. Shots of Karan. He's 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 my celebrity photographer. He's my guy. Like if I need somebody to come through and pull up, he's just Karan Riles. He's the man. He's the man. Listen, his photos are everything. He hires events. If you didn't see the photos, you can see the photos. I tagged his Instagram, is DVS Company at DVS underscore co. And they do videography, they do photography, they do it all. And it's an incredible company. They're the Creative Coalition, Culture Curated. They're a creative agency. They got a nice following on Instagram. You should check out their website and hire them. They work with everybody, all backgrounds, all types of situations. Check out their Instagram. It is DVS underscore co. And Karan Riles is the leader over there. And oh my goodness, he do great photos of me, man. My family photos, like some of his stuff is so good. I'm going to probably like frame it and like, give out gifts. I'm trying to figure out what my gifts are going to be for next year for my friends. I have a theme, but that's another story. Anyway, so I had an after party at a hotel lobby at the Westin downtown. It was like a little after party, and it was a charcuterie board. Mr. Johnson made, cocktails, and it was a small, intimate party with friends right after the gala. And it was mostly my board and our committee leaders. It wasn't like everybody and their mother needed to come. It was like about maybe 15, 10 people. So we were there, and I mean, the party was started around, I want to say 11:30 p.m. We finally all arrived at the suite around then. Everybody was, mixing and mingling, talking, all that. Within an hour, a couple of folks were like, oh, we got this invite to go to the club. And there was some party at this spot called the Winston. And so I was like, okay, well, y'all have fun. They were like, wait, you're not going? I'm like, excuse me, what time is it? I don't know, but I mean, the crazy part was they ended up getting a section, a booth, bottle service. They had a good time, but I just like, I can't with all the noise. I can't with all the, and then folks want to come up to you. It's like, oh, I'm not, you just know yourself. So yeah, I'm like, okay, we'll do this part, but I'm not going to be a part of the third leg of the night. Like I'm the person who stops at okay, I'll do the follow-up, but I'm not going to do the follow-up to the follow-up. I'm the person that stops at that next part. So let's say if there's a birthday party, everybody go to someone's house to sip and do drinks. My night stops at that part of the fun, right? I'm not going to be the person that goes to the next spot. The last was like, that's just too much for me. But I think part of it is because I go out a lot anyway, that I just don't. Because I'm like, I don't know how to put it. I'm like, what do I do next? Why do I need to do the next part? I mean, we could spend time. I mean, let's do brunch. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I just don't need too. I'm gonna give y'all an after party, but I can't do the after party. I've realized that is I found my limit. Because at that point I get a little irritable, or I just be at that point what's my energy, my social energy, my social battery is runs empty at that point. I don't know, but I'm typically not. Now sometimes I might do more, but it's just like I don't know. I think Philly's nightlife is just not. There's elements of it that's just not fulfilling, right? And we got a nightmare, Raheem Manning, who don't answer my homegirl's DMs when she would want to get information about clubs that are playing games with their times. But we're going to let the nightmare ride out. He better hope that Sherelle Parker reappoint him in the position. And he better make sure he gets it together, responding to the needs of the public when it comes to these issues. See, sometimes you got to put an at on it. You got to put a name on it. But he's cool. He's a nice guy. But anyway, so with Sin, I think what it's giving is that it's not nightclub, but it has the vibe of a nightclub energy. The music, the high energy, the lovely bottle service, the all of those things. But you're having a dinner and you're able to be socialized and have fun with friends, but you have to have all of the chaos that comes with nightclub life. So vibe dining is that. It's the element of you feel like you're in a club. It's a groove, it's a pace, but you don't have all of the chaos of a nightclub. For folks like me who've gone to nightclubs, that was my 20s. You see a lot of interesting characters and people. So I do like the fact that I can be able to go out somewhere and not feel overwhelmed, and all of that. So I do appreciate it. Now, the food. The food is classic. It's classic American Italian cuisine. You got your chicken parm, you got your good steaks, you got your ribeyes, all that. You have your chicken marsala. The chef that is over the place, the leader of it, he used to be at a lot of he did Jose Garza's restaurants. He did Amada in Atlantic City. He's did a couple of places for as the executive chef over for some Garza's restaurants. And then he also did, for a small stint, a Steven Starr restaurant or a project before Steven Starr pulled out, Bankroll. He was the executive chef of Bankroll before that fell apart. And so the executive chef, he just wants to do things up a notch. And so I got to see the kitchen ascend and check out the food and check out all the vibes. And look, the food is good. Like I mean, the food is standard. It's nothing on that front that's like elevated and high fine cuisine. It's good. It's just solid good, if that makes sense. Like, there's some restaurants that's like, hey, it's mind blowing. There's some things going on that they're doing with recipes that you have never tried flavor before. It's very familiar. It's very comforting food. It's again, it's just standard good food. Like I think that's the one thing I'll say. A restaurant like that could have food that's ridiculously overpriced. The food prices, I believe, are fair. I don't think it's overpriced at all. I think the food is very just standard, very standardly good. Like, it's decent food. It's nothing, oh my God, this is the most incredible steak I've ever had in my life. No, it's not that, but it's not a bad steak at all either. It's not like I don't like this. This was mediocre. No mediocrity here. Just standard. I would definitely give it a 7.5, 8 out of 10. An 8 out of 10, if that makes sense. And that's not bad, right? But also it's Italian, and because maybe I've had Philadelphia just makes Italian food super well. A lot of the places just by nature isn't going to be, because of the type of cuisine. But I've also have learned that just because something doesn't taste like vetri doesn't mean it's bad. Like, we do that too much in society, I feel like. Like music is like, if everybody can't sing like Beyonce. Every R&B artist coming out the gate cannot dance or sing like Beyonce. And respect Beyonce, because she's been in the game for 25 years. So to act like anyone can do what she do instantly is unfair to her, and it's unfair to the other artists. I just want to make that point, because we do that in the food industry. We do that in Hollywood. We do that in music. We just always put these high expectations on folks, specifically folks that are new or young or whatever. So no, it's not Mark Vetri, but that's okay, because that's not even what I think it's trying to achieve. First of all, it's Italian, it's American Italian food. So you're thinking of like the things at Olive Garden, the menu item at Olive Garden, except actually with better ingredients, a higher quality chef, and a better presentation and consistency. But let's not sleep on the tour of Italy at Olive Garden. Let me just say that. We're not going to sleep on the tour of Italy, because y'all will joke about tour of Italy. Let me say the tour of Italy, baby, okay, with a good breadstick and a salad. Well, let me tell you something. That Olive Garden salad dressing is unmatched and unrivaled. It's so good that they had to package it. They made their own and sold it in grocery stores, because it was something about that dressing that had the people going, listen, I was one of those people, okay? Listen, sometimes that's what it took. I used to go on date. Oh, I remember the days of my Olive Garden years. This was when I was in Houston, when I was what they would call a young buck. And I was out there, and I used to go on dates. But I remember a date I had at Olive Garden. Ooh, goodness gracious, what a date! I broke that man in half. Not in that way. So we go out. I was like, when I was young, I was super skinny. I don't know if I don't do enough Throwback Thursday, folks. But back in the day, like 13, 14 years ago, I was super, super skinny. Like super, super skinny. And, lately I've been slimming down, which has been interesting to watch. The girl is slimming, but I'm doing it at my own pace. I'm Oprah. I look good in every size that I'm in. But anywho, I I remember years ago, like I said, I was super, super, super skinny. It was ridiculous. This was like years ago, over a decade ago. And I went out, and I guess this guy, he took me out, and we was at Olive Garden. And so this was like 2009. It was like 2009 when I went on this date. So that's that. I was like, I had just turned 18 because I turned 18. My birthday was October 12th, right? So I'm trying to remember when it was. Like right before it was right. Okay, it was right during winter break, and this is my senior year, and I was like definitely having senioritis, but I pushed through. This is taking me somewhere. So we were on Highway 6. There was an Olive Garden on Highway 6, for those who know Houston. West Oaks Mall, and Darden restaurants were up and down there. So it was a Joe's Crab Shack not too far away. There was that Red Lobster. And this was when you remember when Red Lobster and Olive Garden used to always be next to each other. Okay, throwback. Okay. So I went there because at the time Olive Garden was my favorite restaurant. We've come a long way. Chili's was second place. I did my 18th birthday dinner at Chili's. And you know who was there? Jamarcus Henderson, my lit brother, my best friend of so many years. Okay, we've been friends for over 15 years. That's my bestie. We go so back. And we talk about it so much about how we both have grown up and do things. Now we live across the street from each other. Like, it's Miguel. So so this date at Olive Garden, we go, and I mean, he decided to pay, of course, and I was 18. Yeah, I was definitely 18. He was a freshman at University of Houston because he didn't go to Rice. Yes, he did not go to Rice because I got accepted to Rice, and he was, like, oh, check you out, Mr. So-and-so. But he was at University of Houston, downtown. He did not stay on main campus. That I remember because he had an apartment. But that's another story for another day. So we were there, and we were eating, and I don't know what it was, but like I'm eating the salad, I got more salad than I can imagine. Listen, I'm tall. I think people look at it, look, I used to be called the bottomless pit because I used to eat so much, but I used to never really gain weight. And so I don't know what he thought, but I guess when it was time for entrees, he's like, whatever, get what you want, what you're interested in. And I said, I want to tour Italy. And he looked at that menu. This is how you know this is back in the Yoden days, okay? Because, like, come on. But he looks at that menu. He's like, oh. And then, so she asked him so I got to tour Italy. And then he was like, oh, I'm good. I'm just going to just do salad and breast sticks. I'm chilling. I'm good. He was good. So it made me feel weird because I was like, wow, like, you're not hungry? He's like, oh, you're not full, all this soup, salad, and breast sticks. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, in retrospect, I understand what the context of what was happening. But, why are you going to take out a kid? Listen, I had no conception of what was happening at the time. So the funny part was that when the food comes, he's like, damn, you going to eat all that? I'm like, yeah, what's up? So he starts, I could tell that he was hungry. Like, I could tell that the salad and breast sticks was not hitting for him. So I said, you want some of this chicken parm? I'm not going to eat all the chicken parm. I want to eat all the chicken parm. But I just was like, let me get him some of this chicken parm. So he tore that shit up. Okay, so we both ate it together. It was cute. That's what Olive Garden wasn't being tools, because there was this thing culture-wise where if you got the soup, salad, and breast sticks, it had to be two people. Don't ask me how I know this. But but you couldn't share meals. You had to do two entrees. Both people had to eat at the table. And I didn't, maybe I was responsible partially as I was one of those diners that went to these restaurants that would, do it like that. Be like, oh, you got to have, you got to have two entrees in order to get the soup, salad, and breast sticks. You just can't go there and do it. Now they do that. I think they allow people to do unlimited now with anything or whatever. But back then, it was very like, oh no, that's complimentary and you need to get you an entree too. But we shared. It was cute. It was definitely not a Bella Noche, like Lady and the Tramp situation, but it was cute. I have to commend him on his, I'm going to commend him on his thoughtfulness. He was a gentleman. I mean, a gentleman, look, he Listen, maybe he had a budget and maybe I went over the budget without knowing. But you can't tell me get whatever I want. I mean, I didn't know. But anywho, I mean, I'm gonna be classy, but all I gotta say is it was a nice night for everybody involved. So that was then. This is now. That being said, I don't even know where I went with that. Okay, Olive Garden is decent. I miss Olive Garden in Philly. The irony is that years later. What year was it? 20? Oh my God, it was like 2014. So that had to be 5 years later. One of my first dates with now the man who's my husband was at Olive Garden. Invisible String. If you heard this song by Taylor Swift off her album Folklore, it's a song called Invisible String. And I really feel like that describes my relationship with Mr. Johnson, my marriage, because it's just like, there's all these weird parallels and connections, but listen to that song. If you don't listen to a Taylor Swift song, one of my favorite songs by her, which I feel like is underrated and they don't talk about enough, is Invisible String. But I mean, so the song is about her and the guy I thought she was gonna marry. What's his name? Joe. He's an actor, and he's a British actor. But I thought they were going to be the couple together. I don't think this Travis Kelce thing is a thing. I still don't believe it. I know the Chiefs and the Eagles, all the drama with all that. Look at that game. The brothers on brothers, the family. It's crazy. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. I'm not convinced. I think this is a moment. And I feel like all the tension, I'm like a little annoyed with her because I was rooting for her, and I'm a Swiftie, but I'm just kind of like, girl, these are those moments where I can like, where people be like, okay, Taylor Swift's annoying. This be the shit. It's not the music. The music is hitting. I like her pop music. I love her music. I ain't got no problem with the music. I think it's the other things that happen, like all these relationships and some people she's dated. I'm like, oh, why is this the distraction? You got all this good stuff going on. You might win your 4th Grammy for album of the year and make history again. Like, come on, So it's yeah. But anywho, Invisible String was the song that she sings, and she's connecting the dots between how all these coincidences led to her being with, at the time, Joe, and her ex now, but how that was a connection there. And I just think that there's all these little hints in my life that pointed me in the direction of being with him. Like there were like all these unique coincidences in our experience that it's almost like everything pointed us to be together. There were like all these subtle signs. Like one of them, which I don't, this podcast is going in a different direction to me. But that's why I love it, because it's like kind of free flowing, right? It's like, okay, I wasn't thinking this was going to be how we was going to start the show, but here we are. But one of these things is that every person I had a serious relationship, their birthday was on, like the major exes I had. There's some people that I don't consider major exes, but the first person I dated, like fell in love with, I would argue, his birthday was the day before my husband's. That was interesting. Another interesting thing is that I went to a psychic, like when I was in college. I walked down with a psychic. There was one on the street. I forget, it's in Chestnut. She's on Chestnut Street. But me and my friends went in the summer of 2013? Like, yeah, 10 years ago. And it's before I met him. And I was so single, y'all. I was boy crazy. But anyway, I went to the psychic and I was like, I want to know, what do you want to talk about? Your health, this? I was like, oh, no, I'm well there. I want to talk about my love life. Where is my lover? Where is he? And she looks and she says, I'm seeing New Jersey. I'm seeing Trenton. And so I'm like, oh, Princeton? He's in Princeton? She's like, I don't know. Princeton, Trenton, New Jersey, somewhere in Trenton. He's from Trenton, New Jersey, people. He resides in Princeton, New Jersey. He was born in Trenton, New Jersey. I laughed at this woman. I said, I want my money back. I was like, girl, whatever. He ain't no Jersey. I was a little cynical. And the other thing she said was that he was going to be at Penn. And I said, girl, bye. I didn't already, I wasn't going to say I went through people at Penn, but I didn't already have my fair share of horrible Penn men. I was not interested in Penn men. If you ask my best friends, Dr. Parks, you ask Jamarcus, if you ask any of my friends who I went to college with, I was anti-Penn. I did not want to date anyone that went to school with me. I was like, oh, that's not happening. I wanted a Temple boy. I dated, Drexel wasn't too bad. I just was like, I'm not dating someone from Penn. We see what happened. There was just all of these signs. There were all of these signs. Another sign was that somebody said to me, and again, all this happened the year we first met, that summer. And someone said to me, was like, you should go to that Beyonce, the Mrs. Carter World Tour, which was at the Wells Fargo Center. Your lover will be there. Somebody special gonna be there. Some friend said, you might find the man of your dreams, whatever. He's in their room. He's there. And I'm looking like, well, I believe that because the gays are definitely going to the Beyonce concert. Well, the crazy thing is when I went to the concert, I didn't get chose. But I was definitely lively that night, wowed. And a year after we talked, Mr. Johnson, said to me, he was at the Mrs. Carter World Tour. He went to that Beyonce concert. And he said that somehow he remembered me, I looked familiar, he saw me being wild or whatever at the concert. He was there. We hadn't spoken to each other, but he was there. All I say is that there's invisible string. You just never know how things are going to connect. You just never know that whatever the energy you feeling is in front of you and it's in your eyes and you can't place it. It's I don't know. It's just a lot of coincidence. And then as we start to date, I believe in like unique numbers and things. 7 is our number. 7 is my number. 7 is our number. There's like the number 7 has played a role in a lot of things between us and everything. It's also interesting in that front. 7 has just been a big reoccurring number in my life for all of the folks that follow all of my crazy stories. So like I came out, like he proposed to me during on the 7th anniversary of when I came out to my family. We became officially a couple 7 months after we first laid eyes on each other. We got married on the 7th year of us becoming an official couple. 7 has a lot of special significance and symbolism within our whole experience. So, want to know another fun thing? 7 years marks the first time I won a PABJ award between the time I won the Trailblazer Award 2016 and when I won Journalist of the Year last week. That number 7, baby, don't sleep on it. 7 just has a symbolic thing for me. Lucky number 7. So I do believe, listen, I'm not a psychic, but I just feel like there are things, there's that invisible string as Taylor Swift references in that lovely song. There's those little things that connects people and human experiences and things. And you can ignore the reality of it and act like it doesn't happen, and that's fine. Or you can lean into the supernatural and arguably divine intervention, if that's what you believe in. I don't ignore it. I've lived too long not to act like everything just falls from the sky. So, other places I went to this week, I went to Lock Bar. Lip Brothers had a actual like Lock Bar dinner that was like intimate and private amongst us boys. We wanted to get together and try Lock Bar in Philadelphia without all the razzle dazzle of the grand opening. And so we all 4 went there, sat down. It's hot. It's the bomb. Like I'm sorry. It is give it all 10s across the board. Lock Bar is just as hot. Listen, I went to the one in Baltimore. I went to this one in Philly. I mean, they're different in the vibe because just Baltimore and Philly are just different. And there's no shade to either one. Each of them have their own crowd. Like I just feel like the Baltimore crowd is just loud. Baltimore is loud. Have you been to a bar in Baltimore? Oh my God, people just loud for no reason. And Philly has its moments too. I ain't gonna hold you. Philly can get a little rowdy too. But there's just something about that Baltimore bar that is just it's just different. But no, Philly had a good time. It was lovely there. The Seafood Tower. let's talk about it. That was the petite. That was the smallest seafood tower on the menu, y'all. But it was huge. I was like, damn, that's the petite. And it's under $100. And the cool thing I like about it is we're not clams people. We don't really eat clams. You can substitute off of that menu. So we substitute the clams for more oysters. And that was a smart choice. There was the shrimp cocktail, there was the mussels, there's other things on it, but I love that. I loved it. So I highly recommend um, recommend uh, the whole experience. So yeah, we gonna definitely talk about it. Uh, but yeah, cocktails, great cocktails, fun cocktails that make you go woo. Okay, fun, fruity, flirty. The cocktails phenomenal. Dessert was really good. We got all three of the desserts on the menu. I think we tried all three of them because we just couldn't decide. And when you have a good party of folks that like to eat, it's always good to just say, let's do it all. If you into it, there's something for the chocolate lovers. There's something for those creamy dessert lovers, tart lovers. They had it all. Main entree. I got a steak. I had the filet mignon. That's been my thing lately. I've been wanting to have steak, but in smaller portions. I'm not the tomahawk girl I used to be. I like to have filet mignon. And listen, my favorite way of getting my steaks now, y'all, is medium rare. It's been hidden. Medium rare has been where it's at. I can't go back. I'm medium rare. I can't go back. I can't go back. With a glass of red wine, good red wine, no white, never white. A bad bitch can never. But no, a good red wine. But I really, really love their filet mignon. And I had it medium rare, and it was good. I'm there now. It took me some time. Look, the last time, before this podcast, I was in that middle between medium well and medium. But then I got on medium for about 2 years. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, we have medium rare. And we're going to stay at medium rare. We're not doing rare. I ain't, nah. I'm not Hannibal Lecter. But I do appreciate a good medium rare. Medium rare is where it's at for me. Mr. Johnson, I feel like he'll do it at a good restaurant. And my husband is very big. Like he will do it at a good restaurant, right? But he's medium. And it took some time. Okay. But I remember we went out with his family, again, Trenton in the house. Trenton. They were very you know, well done, baby. They are a well done group. But I love that most of my friends are like medium, which is fine. And then I got a couple of folks that's, they're on the medium rare side for various reasons. They've been there, but I'm there. I'm at medium rare. But I never forget this. We was at, oh my God. So I was with my in-laws and my folks, and we were at Maggiano's. This was a couple years ago. And we was there, and I remember the steaks were coming. Everybody was getting the steaks, and they just was like, well done. And I think they felt like saying well done meant that well done was a compliment, not for a steak. You actually want to get away from the compliments with a steak. If anything you saying is well, that's always a sign. Like you don't want, like, only with steak do you not want compliments on the steak. How you want your steak? Well done? No well. Nothing well about it. You want to get away from anything with the word well. Medium well, well done. You don't want no compliments on the steak. You like, nah, I want it bad. I don't want it well. I want it bad. But I think they're like, well done, like as if it was a compliment. I was like, no. And I remember looking at him, and I was like, well done. He's like, he just gave me that look like, I was like, okay. They're scared of pink. They're scared of red. And I was like, well, if you don't like red, maybe, okay, if you want a steak medium well, you don't want a steak, you want a fucking burger. Get a burger. And even with a burger, you don't get it like well done. You get it like, sound like a good burger. I mean, you want to get that like, I feel like for a burger, I typically go medium well for a burger. I don't go in the other direction because burgers are different, I feel like. But I was just like, if you don't want blood or you don't want things like, and first of all, it's not, is it blood? I don't anyway. I just feel like the red, I'm like, it's not, that's not how meat works. And I'm a Texan, so I'm like, that's not, I hear y'all, but that's not how it works in eating food. But they just, I don't know. I'm like, you don't want a steak. Don't eat a steak. Just, there's no point to eat a steak at that point. I mean, if you want to have fajitas, get it sliced up. Even let me just anyway, I was just kind of looking a little, but then I was like, you know what? Everybody's different, and we're at Maggiano's. So at the end of the day, is this the place to even order a steak respectfully? I mean, I wouldn't get a steak at Maggiano's personally, but like, listen, everybody's different. And so I had to just sit there and watch them struggle to cut a hockey puck in front of me. But anywho, I digress. Love them. Love them. You gotta love your family, flaws and all. Okay. Um, so lock bar, I had filet mignon. The seafood was really good, of course. They had the branzino. The branzino is a standout entree. I will say there was a Chilean sea bass that was also good, but that branzino at Lock Bar is top tier. I highly recommend the branzino. If you're going there for seafood for an entree, I would definitely recommend the branzino. And appetizers was good. I would recommend the fried lobster tail. The fried lobster tail was definitely doing its thing. So yeah, Lock Bar was great. Went to a couple of holiday themed events. You know, it's the holidays. It's just like, damn, where is time going? We're headed to December with nothing stopping us. My goodness, what a year! What a year, people! What a year! But yes, we are. Yes, we're in the holidays. It's the most wonderful time of the year. They'll be dancing, and I'm like, that's all in my head. Like every time I think of the holiday season, that's the thing. That's the song that's in my head next to Mariah Carey. But I typically wait for Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas. I wait for that. I wait for All I Want for Christmas with her. So because she's in her own vibe. Um, that song never gets old. That is my song, okay? That is my song. So let me tell you about this experience. Two places, Butcher Bar and the Prime Rib, both have their own holiday themed menus, cocktails, drinks. Everything is starting. Prime Rib, which is at Casino Live, which I've been going to more often lately. I love that place. It's growing on me, for sure. They have a new holiday cocktail menu that's dope. Um, Butcher Bar has a holiday cocktail menu that's also pretty dope as well. Um, who else got holiday stuff? Um, I went to El Murky for a small little bar crawl that was over there on Chestnut, that whole little rent house area. It was Butcher Bar, Bolo, which I haven't been to in a minute, and there was another spot, but um, it was some fun stuff going on over there too. Um, and it's the holidays. The restaurants are back in full swing. I'm really loving that people are having um these moments. I'm really happy that people are coming back and bringing back um the food and things like that. Um, because it's a lot. It's a lot, and you know, mm, I just love holiday drinks. I love holiday drinks, and everything that comes with them, and all the fun stuff. I mean, you kind of want like the desserts. You kind of want to be experimental, but like for me personally, my holiday, I'm not an eggnog cocktail girl. I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the dairy. I don't know because of what, but something about the eggnog and some of the stuff that's going on there. I'm kind of like, you gotta try different stuff. But like, I don't know, no eggnogs I mean, maybe with rum or conquito, but like I need folks I know and trust to make those drinks. I don't know if I can just go to a bar. So I'm more of the vodka, cranberry, candy cane maybe situation. A good old cranberry cocktail esque or apple cider, cinnamon, hot toddy. Like I'm more on that direction with the holiday cocktails. But Butcher Bar and the Prime Rib had some really fun drinks. Like they got some for everybody. They got all types of liquors. There was a drink at the Prime Rib that had like a Ciroc vodka, but a coconut vibe, and I was really feeling in the season with that. So it goes. It definitely goes. Um, but sometimes you gotta check out the different spots and get in where you can fit in because the holiday scene is definitely one for the taking. But one of the things I am not doing, and I'm just saying this now, is I'm not doing holiday sandwiches. I'm not trying your gobblers. I'm not that girl. I'm not a gobbler girl. I know there's a lot of girls that be doing we're gonna do the gobbler and we're gonna do the Wawa sandwiches. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna shade you, but I'm not I'm not a gobbler girl. We're not doing these turkey gravy sandwich. I'm not beat for it. I'm not beat for it. Um, because I know there's people that's like, oh, well, what about this? And I'm like, like we want you to try this. I'm like, no, baby, I'm not beat for it. I thought I was. I thought I was that girl, but I'm not. Um, but yeah, I think the more I think about certain holiday stuff like foods, I'm like, I don't want to eat no one else's, you know, I don't want to try anyone else's, holiday food that isn't already, something I've already had or vetted, personally. So just putting that out there. Um, I'm thinking about there was another place that I'm thinking about that I saw that there was like this I don't know if the word is a bar crawl, but I'm thinking it was Butcher Bar. There was another place that did this interesting. So El Murky I tried. Oh, it was El Murky, Butcher Bar, and Bolo. They had the crawl. That was suited. They all had the crawl. They're under the same group. They had a crawl that was I went to over the weekend. But I went to El Murky, and let me talk about El Murky specifically. It is a I think it's Argentina or Ecuadorian street food. Like, but it's not Mexican food. It's Latin food, and it's like different types of street food. They have like these really huge what are those things called? Churros. That it was like with this brown caramel sauce. It was dope. It was a great vibe. It's on Chestnut. It's underrated. It's like a great place to go for lunch. But I highly recommend it. But I just want to put that there out there. Other places I went to that I liked. I had brunch this weekend at High Street. Brunch is officially at High Street. I had dinner there earlier when they had their grand open a couple of weeks ago, but they now have brunch. And brunch was brunching, baby. Oh my goodness. First of all, the pastries that are made at High Street are some of the best pastries. They had some of the best pastries in the city, period. High Street Bakery, their pizza, anything with flour and dough they make in there, they do their damn thing. The chefs there are incredible. Ellen Yin doesn't miss. Ellen Yin doesn't miss. I think Ellen Yin is one of the most consistent restauranteurs, and she won the James Beard Award this year for Best Restaurant. I mean, all of the High Street properties, which is Fork, High Street Hoagies, High Street Provisions, and which is connected. Like I said Fork, the High Street restaurant itself, A Bar, A Kitchen. These are great places. Like all of them are good. A lot of people have restaurants where it's like hit or miss. You don't, some stuff you like, some stuff you don't like. I'm not gonna name names, but like it's she's something different, and I'm happy to call her a friend. I'm happy to call her somebody that I look up to in this restaurant industry. She's been doing this. She's the goat. She's a beast. She's a goat. She's one of the goats of the Philadelphia food scene in the East Coast, to be honest. She's one of the goats. She can bring out anybody to a party, okay? She can get Steven Starr out and Mark Vetri out and Michael Solomonov out in the same room, okay? She has that kind of pull. She is she is a quintessential restaurateur. I can't, I just, hands down. So High Street is great. When I went to I tried their food at the new location. She popped up and saw me. I was like, "Oh, hey, Ellen." She was sweet. But the brunch is incredible. They're doing brunch and lunch now, not just dinner. They've been doing dinner, but they have a lunch and brunch menu that is just as great as the dinner menu, and you can go there for yourself, and you can make reservations and check it out. So just putting that out there. Tried the fall menu at Restaurant Alexander in Rittenhouse. I went with my good friend Mike Banks, and we was just catching up. And he never been, but he said it was one of the best meals he's ever had in years. Because the executive chef, Montana Houston, Jameer Wimberly Cole, who's the chef de cuisine. They're killing it. Their fall menu is like everything that I want it to be, because I know what they can do. I've gone so many times at this point. I'm like a super fan. I know what they can do. And they have fried chicken finally on the menu. Y'all don't understand. This summer when we did the canceled dinner, for those who went, they had this incredible fried chicken. Everybody loved it. And I was like, why is this chicken on the menu? You got to get it on the menu. They perfected that recipe. It is now on the menu. And it is one of the most popular items on their menu. That chicken was good. Okay? It was phenomenal. It was great. Loved it down. I don't know what's going on in this city, but there seems to be a fried chicken movement, because as I'm talking about their fried chicken, there's another place that we can't sleep on their fried chicken. But their fall menu is on point. They have I tried for the first time. They just released it. They have a lamb loin on the menu that is just incredible. There's a dish on the side of it that I thought was foie gras, but it was something else. But it was good. It was really Frenchy. It was very like livers, chicken livers, and mousse. It was very good. I had also, what did I have? I had the fried chicken. I had the pork belly. I had the octopus. Did I do octopus? I did octopus. And I'm thinking about what was the main course in front. Oh, the duck. Top 3 places in the city to get duck. And I wouldn't even say it's number 3, but it's in the top 3 best places that serve duck. The duck at Restaurant Alexander is, to me, they're one of the most iconic signature dishes. Like nothing above anything else there. Get the duck. If you don't know what to get on that menu, get the duck. The duck is just hitting. Oh, I love fall eating, because fall eating, I get to eat the things I really love, things that are rich, things that are fun. But they're killing over there. They're just exceptional, and it's never a bad time at Restaurant Alexander. I'll be back again next month. It's just a habit. I feel like that's the one restaurant I can go to every month and never feel bored, because they're always doing something fun, and it's just good food, and it's so comfortable. It's easy to get a reservation. Like, I just love that place. So yeah. Speaking of fried chicken, though, I went to the Twisted Tail on South Street. Look at y'all. I bet somebody like, damn, you be going everywhere. Yes, I do. That's what a food editor does, baby. An editor of a food publication has to go and try the food. Because how can I write about something I haven't ate? I'm not going to throw shade at some of your faves, but some of your faves be out here, throwing up pictures and leaving. They don't even eat the food. They just, no. We got to eat the food. I can't not go. Now, if I got to manage my lunch and my breakfast situation so that, we not, I got to do what I got to do. But I have to have the food. I can't, I'm not ever going to promote a restaurant or write about a restaurant and I haven't tried the food. I just feel like that's intellectually dishonest. I just don't know how do you do that. I don't know how to do that, personally. Some people found a way to do it. I'm just not that person. I have to describe the food. I can't say it's spicy if it's not spicy. Well, the menu says it's spicy. No. I'm going to act, because, y'all know how these restaurants do. They'll say, we got the biggest this, the biggest that. And you know what happens? You know what happens about credibility? Is that you go there, right? And who told you to go? When I write a review, when I write something about a restaurant, people literally make decisions with their money to go. I take it seriously, right? You are a consumer. Look at this economy. You just can't be out here going to duds and flops. You can't. You just can't. Money is scarce. People are trying to figure out how to navigate different places to go, right? For different reasons, right? When you go to a restaurant, you're making an investment. And if you're going to read reviews and you're going to talk to people who've been in the restaurant scene that has done the work, you want to know where you're going and what your experience is going to be like. If I'm going to be that guy that's going to curate and gather that information, I got to let you all know what it's giving. And I'm not going to be a soundboard for PR. And there's a lot of racist people in this industry. I'm going to keep it 100. There are a lot of racist old white men and some of our own, okay, that don't like the fact that my smart, unapologetic, proud Black millennial self is sitting at these restaurants and having an opinion that does not match in line with theirs. Now, let me be clear, because I don't want people to think I'm talking about any of reporters. I am not talking about Craig LeBon. Craig LeBon and I are cool. I really like him a lot. He shouts me out. He shows love. Craig and I are cool. I'm not talking about Craig LeBon. I'm talking about other folks, and I'm not going to name names of other people. And I'm not talking about Michael Klein. Michael Klein does good work. You know, he's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. We can all coexist. I'm not talking about Michael Klein. I just want to put that out there because some of y'all will go run with this and say, "Ooh, I know who." No. I'm not talking about them. Decent people. They've been cool with me. They've been respectful of me. We all getting paid. We all getting fed. Okay. But there are other people in this industry, and it's not necessarily media. Let me be clear. There's some haters. There's some haters in media. But it's people who are in these restaurant groups, some of these PR people, some of these other folks that are haters. And I'm never going to go up to them and roll up in their face and say anything. I keep it moving. But there are some haters. And they feel some type of way. And it's the elitism. Because let me tell you something about the racism that I deal with doing this work. And listen, it's no different from politics. Y'all know that. I mean, when I came in the door trying to cover politics, like, who the fuck do you think you are? There was attitude. There was people like, well, why are you doing this? But you know what I've learned and why I can confidently say there's a double standard and there's racism? Because there are people that have said things like, I'm surprised he's the editor. He doesn't, he's super young and he needs to develop his skills and thinking about food. And, I don't know if he is, equipped to do this. Do you know how old the editor of Philly Mag's FUBU's publication was before the new food editor came? They were under 30. Under 30. Do you know that editor who's under 30, might be 30 now, is now the editor of The Infatuation in Philly? Do you know that a lot of the actual food writers, the white girls, because it's mostly white girls and white men, there is only another Black food writer consistent that's at The Infatuation. I know that's Black, but the diversity in food coverage actually skews either older upper white male or younger white woman. Period. It's not that many food writers of color. Now, under my leadership as the editor of Eater Philly, I've onboarded diversity. There is other people writing about food under my publication that does not fit that demographic that was being described. I say all that to say that for a long time in this city, the people that's been writing about food has either been older white men or younger white women. So all of these standards that people are having about me or trying to move that goalpost, it's racist. I'm sorry. I can't. What makes me different from the rest of them? Because I can tell you what makes me different outside of my melanin. It could be my years of actually going to restaurants consistently. It could be the countless levels of my journalistic skills that I can transfer from one place to the next, and a versatility that makes me feel like I'm a young Meryl Streep in this local Philly media market. It could be my over a decade of award-winning journalism that has covered arts, culture, politics, social justice, and fucking more. And so when you are at this point in the game, You're just not going to let people try you. And I'm at a point in my career where I'm not about to let nobody try me on what I can do. I'm confident as fuck, and I'm not going to let anybody look at me and question what I can do. So the little side remarks, the little, that was an interesting pick. Yeah, it was an interesting pick. And that traffic every month that continues to skyrocket is also interesting. Because when you come to a publication where people gave up on it, they said, oh, the Inquirer, they got all the food coverage. Eater is dead. Eater is this. Eater is that in Philly. Oh, no one reads anymore. And you don't come to do it common. You come to do unconventional. And what we've done, what I've been able to achieve since I've been in this position, the numbers don't lie, baby. The energy don't lie. How many people was reading Eater Philly like this? Engaging with the content like this? Talking about us in stories that have now gone national multiple times. Exactly. So I tell people all the time, if you don't see the bigger picture, maybe your lens is too small. Maybe your vantage point is too far. Maybe your inability to imagine something different that does not center around you and your white sensitivities and your racism is not my problem. It's a personal problem. And so I wanted to be known that it's always the people on the sidelines. It's always a motherfucker with no abracadabra that's trying to talk about magic. You have no abracadabra. What have you done? Where is your fucking wand? Find your wand and tap on it and tap into your magic. But what's going over here, the sorcery over here, baby, it's gonna keep happening. And that's where I'm at. Like I just see, hear a couple, a little this, a little that. I see stuff. I'm just like, you got all these opinions, but where are you sitting at? But where are you sitting at in the conversation? Where? And I think that's the problem with people in Philly. Some folks in Philly, maybe let me add, is that how many times are you gonna play the critic before you actually do the fucking work? It's easy to sit and talk about what other people are doing and how they're doing it when you're not doing the goddamn thing. Now, I'm never going to complain about a worker that's critiquing labor because you're doing the work, right? But there's some people out here just always have an opinion, but they're not doing any work. And that's the kind of opinions I don't value. Like I value and respect folks that are in this field that are looking at the nuance and have different thoughts about it, right? But there's some people out here who just always, just the mouth. And they try to act like there's a valid critique. And it's like, but it's not, because I'm just like, did you ever have that smoke for any of these other editors? Oh, that's right. You wasn't reading their shit. Just saying, not throwing shots. I'm just saying, it's like, where, I used to be like, well, where was the critique for these folks and this? And I'm like, oh, you wasn't even engaging with them. Like I wonder how Beyonce feels. I could never know exactly how she feels, but I wonder what the Oprahs of the world feel. Like when people got all this about any project they do or anything they do, and then you go, well, they didn't say that when so-and-so did it, but you're like, well, they wasn't even checking for so-and-so. There is something about people like us that get the folks like them in their bag. And when you recognize that there will never be a pitch perfect, response from any group, then that might mean two things. One, that you're doing your job, and two, that you're doing your job. So I've come to that acceptance of that. Like that you can, that there will always be people who are just envious. They're jealous. And I used to always think to myself, what can I do to not make a person feel that way? And I was like, there's nothing I can do because it's not my problem. And when I've accepted that these things aren't my problem, then I was able to stop putting the labor on me to figure it out for other folks. I think sometimes we give ourselves way too much power on other people's lives and other people's experiences. I've come to grow to the reality that what is for me and what I'm doing, that's what I can only prioritize. Now, this is not me saying I can't be humanitarian and consider other people's lives. I'm not talking about that. But what I'm saying is that when it comes to people's own insecurities, that's a journey. They're gonna go on their own journey, someone once said wisely. Um, that's a journey they have to go. And the only thing I'm gonna do nowadays is I acknowledge it. And that may piss a person off, but I've done it. Recently, there was somebody who just came at me with advice that I wasn't asking for. And the advice was actually trash advice. Like, no shade, it was not good advice. And I just respectfully said, listen, thank you, but I'm going to go a different direction. And rather than accept that advice or accept my response to the unsolicited advice, they went on, oh, you're burning bridges. And I said, you know what? I wasn't going to go there, but I said, you know what? I'm not going to hold you. I said, I feel like a lot of what you're telling me is misplaced and misguided bitterness that has nothing to do with me. And honestly, whatever that hurt is, whatever that little personal beef you had in the head with me, you need to let that go, or because it's not going to help you proceed as a person. Yeah, I said that to somebody recently. Like, I had to literally say that. I'm like, the bitterness is holding you back. The bitterness is not making you move forward. You got to let that shit go. Now, you could talk about stuff with your friends and vent about shit, but when it comes to professional and moving things, you're never going to be able to move forward, because you got to remember, like, look, I'm going to call a spade a spade. There's that other group. We're just going to call them the other group, because I'm not giving them no more promo. But, some of those people, the way that they're moving, they're spending so much time trying to bash and trash the group they left, rather than explain to people exactly what the fuck is going on with what they're trying to do on their side of the fence. I'm not playing defense. I have nothing to defend. I said on my podcast last week, and I'll say it again, the work is the response. And somebody listened to that, quoted me on Twitter, my girl, and she, listen, I'm going to always say the work is the response. That's going to be the response for me. That's my press release. I'm not giving a lot of people who don't mean well for me a response or an explanation. When you're dealing with bad faith actors, you can over communicate, over explain all day, and the quote unquote logic is never going to apply. And when you recognize you're dealing with bad faith actors, then you don't waste your time. I always tell my good Judy, Dr. Parks, I say to her all the time, I say, listen, you get on Twitter, girl, and you really be arguing with these idiots. Who the fuck is that on Twitter who said what they said about so-and-so? Why do we care? And I say that to say that there are we have to acknowledge that we live in a world where there are people who intend to do bad things. They intend to be obtuse and contrarian on purpose. They don't want to see any side. Some of them get paid to be ignorant. We got to acknowledge that there are bad faith actors in our society. There are people that legitimately will never see the right side of the issue on purpose. Their intention is to stroke chaos. They're a chaos agent. And when you recognize that there are people like that in the world, you stop engaging them, because you're going to waste your breath. You're going to waste your energy. You're going to waste your time. And when you recognize people like that in your world or your environment, the best thing to do is to fucking ignore them as much as you can. Now, if they roll up on you, squab up, right? But if you in a situation where you're dealing with chaos agents in your environment, the number one thing is not to feed them. Not to feed them. There are people who love telling me every 5 seconds what some hating ass person got to say, and I just be sitting back like, and who are they on the totem pole? Like, where not totem pole? Where are they on the menu? Respectfully, where are they on the menu? Where are they? Where are they in the conversation? Why is this a priority to me? Like, I know there's tons of people who have opinions about me every day. And because of who I am and what I do, that's never going to change. But what can change is how I choose to react and respond. And what I've learned is that the response to anyone that's questioning your hustle, your flow, your passion, your talent, anybody who's questioning that, the best thing to fucking do is just fucking do the work. I think about so many people who have been called all types of names. You got to remember that 20 years ago, people said Beyonce's no Ashanti as if she was lower than. And what are we? And I love Ashanti. That's my Libra girl. But with all due respect, we're talking about her and Nelly more than we're talking about her and her music. And Beyonce's about to have a concert tour that's about to be in every major American theater. She just fucking did the work. You know, people was like, I don't know about this black woman from the South on TV with that hair and those, and she's a little curvy. I don't know how she's gonna do on TV. I don't think she's the good fit. And here we are, seeing her be the executive producer of a film that she was nominated for an Oscar for over 30 years ago. Oprah Winfrey with The Color Purple. That is inspired by not just the movie, but the musical that she also was a producer of. The work is the response. You say this can't happen, but look at the headline. You said I can't do this, but look at the work. Look what the survey says. My entire career has been filled with people giving me optics. Oh, you can't do it that way. You can't write it that way. You can't say it that way. People are not going to adjust to that. Oh, you can't do this podcast. I don't think people are going to want to hear you talk for over 2 hours. $75,000 monthly downloads later. Over what? 2 years, right? 3 years, actually, next month. I'm here. Next case. So, moving along, Eater's holiday gift guide came out, and it's a list of fun stuff. If you are on Eater's website, we have an Eater's holiday gift guide that has 17 gifts that are from Philly that are food inspired. Not food, not everything is food. We have a couple of food items, but there's like food paraphernalia. One of my favorite things on the gift guide this year is there is a shirt called South Philly, which is like South Philly, but they spell it funny. But it's called South Philly or whatever. And the shirt says Scrapple, but it has the Snapple like logo art. And I thought that was pretty, that was so Philly and so cool. There's Honeysuckle Provision gift cards, which I highly recommend. There's a lot of restaurants where I'm like, you don't want to get a gift card, but this is worth it because you don't just get food. You can get books there and other cool black authored cookbooks and things like that. We also have some cool like trinkets. We have coffee mugs from different places. Down North Pizza has a really cool a t-shirt that they got to celebrate their anniversary. I think it's their I can't remember which anniversary they're at now, but they have a cool t-shirt that they're selling that's going to support them. They do a lot of work around, of course, addressing mass incarceration, so proceeds go to those efforts. So if you really want to get a cool shirt from them, that's the place. All of our items can be purchased online. So when you go to the Eater gift guide, you can click on the tab and it takes you straight to the market. Isn't that cool? Like, it's super dope. So we really love these items, and we, support local Black and brown owned, restaurants and spots, and also diverse spots. We have Sisterly Love, which is the Ellen Yin group with all the women chefs and people in the restaurant industry together. You could make a donation to support them. That's also a cool holiday gift. So we put it there so you can make donations, which will help their efforts to increase representation of women and diversity in the Philadelphia food scene. So, check them out as well. But love them a lot. So that's the Eater's Holiday Guide. Other great news, because you all asked about this over the weekend. The internet has been talking about this great experience that I have, and I can't get enough of it. I am doing an incredible project that people have been talking about. So for the past year, I've been in New York City, and you notice I've been going to New York, and I've been like low key about what I've been doing. And I know some of y'all remember a couple of times I was making these trips to New York, and like, what is Ernest doing in New York? Well, I can finally reveal what I was doing. I was filming for this incredible experience that really, just merges my love for journalism and academia. Like, as you all know, I am, an adjunct professor at Cheyney University, the nation's first HBCU, not Lincoln, just saying. And I'm going to be I'm an instructor and industry expert for the the NYU Rolling Stone Modern Journalism course. So NYU, they have faculty. They also include journalists from Rolling Stone, other news organizations, which, as you all know, I'm a proud contributor at Rolling Stone. And basically, they're helping the public learn the industry, the practices, the basic skills needed to produce news stories. I mean, we're talking audio, visual, and digital mediums. Like, we're doing some really cool journalism here. This is an in-depth journalism course. It covers everything from an overview of investigative tools and techniques. You know, we're doing interview skills. We're doing journalistic ethics. There's audio and visual storytelling. We're using social media for news gathering, distribution, and helping people build a personal brand. The course has 6 online modules and a lot of skill building activities. These modules about, like 3 to 5 hours, but they're broken into shorter lessons that students can complete at their own pace. Now, when you finish this program, y'all, you will get a non-credit certificate of completion from the New York University Journalism School. Okay, pretty dope. If you're interested in this, you can definitely check it out and find out who else is a part of this program. The link is in my bio on Twitter or Instagram. So if you're on Twitter, click the link in my bio and you can click and find out about this course. Or you can go to Instagram and click the link in the bio. It says Modern. I'm on the ad. They did a YouTube, like a little ad, and I'm in the commercial, y'all, for the program. So it was pretty dope. I filmed this for several hours, did several questions, gave so much good advice. I'm throughout the program, throughout the modules. I do a lot of work around personal branding for journalists and people that's like trying to figure out if they want to do freelance. So many people have already hit me up and told me they're in the program. They're applying. They're trying to get enrolled. It is not your traditional, like, honestly, look, I've always told people, like, look, I didn't go to journalism school. I got my degree in communications and my master's in communication management, but I never did journalism school per se. I was the person who learned from the trade. Like, I went out and did lots of internships. I did a lot of fellowships. And through that skill, that's how I learned how to be good at what I do. I went to a lot of conventions and things, but nowadays I feel like there needs to, it's hard to find a good program that will give you these skills, give you the hard concrete skills. You might already be in the field doing it already. And so you need a buffer, right? And so this program is a really cool course. I personally highly recommend it, of course, because I'm a part of it, because I know that the things that I'm telling people, and I know what a lot of these other instructors and experts are saying, is where we are today. That's why it's called modern journalism, because a lot of the old dated, we don't even use the word objective anymore in journalism. When I hear people say, I ain't supposed to be objective, what the fuck are you, like, I understand lawyers now. I understand doctors. I understand clinicians. It must be annoying when you hear people, right, the public use old terms to describe, situations. Like, you're like, we don't even use that term anymore. We don't even describe it like that. We don't even seek to do that with patients anymore. I get it, because in journalism, I hear so many people use terms out of context. They don't understand what they're saying. They don't, a lot of stuff is dated, and they're just like, the one word I wish we could kill. Stop saying objective. Humans cannot be objective. We're not fucking robots. I know that you all are used to hearing that term back in the day, but to tell you something, I'm going to tell you a fun fact. The term objectivity in journalism was often used as a way to gatekeep Black and brown people and women from being journalists. I want you to think about that there is inherent racism and sexism in the term objectivity in journalism. Because the whole point they would say was that you got to separate yourself and take yourself out of the work, that you only can focus on, the subject matter. Now, think about that very carefully. If you are a journalist, first of all, let's just talk about on a surface level. How can you, as a human being, as a person, separate your lived experience, your insight, and all of those things when you are covering a story that impacts aspects of humanity? How is that possible? Exactly. But let's think about where we were in society when this term was being used. So as the world turned, right, you see the civil rights movement, you see the women's rights movement, right? When there begins to be integration in newsrooms, there were some lots of news outlets that did not want Black people covering racism or discrimination, because they argued that, you will be you can't be objective to that. And so a lot of Black journalists have not been given the ability to be on the beat, to be able to cover issues that impacted them for years. They put them in the fashion part. They put them in places that were like isolating at times. They would put them in, some random aggregated section. They never gave a lot of those journalists. A couple of them made it through, right? Chuck Stone and Asa Moore and Mary Mason. But a lot of those people, some of those people had to go at black media companies. They could not go in predominantly white newsrooms and do the work because a lot of times people would consider them to be biased. And if they did get the job, their editors scrutinized their work more than others because of the fact that they assumed they couldn't be objective, right? There are issues like that with women in newsrooms, where there are some women who were being told they couldn't cover sexual assault or Me Too because they felt like there would be bias in how they would cover as a woman. It's like these were the discriminatory excuses to discriminate. So when you hear the term objective, we in the industry now are pushing back at that because we recognize that that was a tool to suppress marginalized communities from covering their communities. So we don't say objective. It doesn't make any sense, right? And also, here's the issue, right? And here's the counter to why the term objective is hypocritical for those who try to arbitrate it. How do you think a newsroom that's predominantly white in black and brown cities across America can objectively, quote unquote, cover those communities when there is no one in those newsrooms that look like them? Oh, okay. So when it was flipped in that direction, a lot of white journalists began to wake up and realize, oh shit, we can't keep doing the objective argument. Oh, because you realize that at the end of the day, the job is to be fair and balanced. The job is to be accurate. The job is to be fair. The job is to have balance. That is what is the ethos to me of journalism, is being fair, is being accurate, and being balanced, okay? Fair meaning, did you properly acknowledge whatever the sentiment of the issue? Are you making sure, right, that you are being fair in allowing people's voices to be included that is essential to the story, okay? Are you making sure you're not leaving out important details, right? Are you being accurate? Are you actually stating the facts and not your own version of them? Are you actually being realistic about the scope to which you're describing the situation? And also, balance. Are we allowing different types of views on the issue share proper footing in the space? And that's not to be confused with giving a white supremacist a mouthpiece. But are we acknowledging contrast in a way that accurately depicts the situation? That's the principles of modern journalism when it comes to the ethos. Objectivity be gone. Because what objectivity is calling for an unfair, unrealistic expectation that disproportionately harms and suppresses the work of Black and brown and women journalists. Take my course, y'all. That's all I got to say. Y'all going to enjoy this. Y'all going to enjoy it. Shout out to Yellow Brick. Shout out to NYU. Shout out to Rolling Stone. If you want to hear more mature conversations about journalism like that, take my course. Be a part of my own journalism. Sign up, register, enroll, learn what the packages are, the cool stuff they got going on. But it's one cool course. If you really want to elevate your understanding of the journalism media, you want to get a certificate, it looks good on a resume. For all of my folks that's in the industry that's doing work, it looks good to have something like that on your resume because you can inform people that, hey, I know journalism, I know media, I'm educated, I'm talking to the major tastemakers and influencers in the business. Take the course if you can. So, shameless plug. And lastly, I gotta say this because my good friend, okay, Dr. Parks was on Instagram. And see, I like to always, they're not going to tell me I'm right all the time, but I'm going to count my own rights, okay? She has been talking about this whole situation with pre-check. She went to New Orleans. She did not do pre-check. She waited over an hour in line. And she got up early in the morning to go down to New Orleans with her girls. My good Judy Jess and Rwana and them. They had a good old time in New Orleans. They trying to do a little thing. I see. Nobody wants to make time with me, make plans. But, they can just take trips to New... I'm feeling some... All right. So, she was in that line and said next time she got to do pre-check. Told you. See, let me tell y'all something. This holiday season... These airports have already been acting up. This summer should have showed y'all what the airports were doing. These airports are acting up. Pre-check. Get pre-check. TSA pre-check. Stop being basic. It's going to cost you. You might miss your flight. I got my whole family on TSA pre-check. I can't do long lines. I'm not waiting that long. Don't do it. Pre-check is the way to go. I'm just going to have to keep saying it. Pre-check is the way to go. Let me tell you something. Get it. It's I think it's like $85, but it lasts for 5 years and then you get to renew at a cheaper price. So I just want to put that out there because some of y'all, we talk about pre-check and I'm just like, they are like, oh, I don't want to pay that. Listen, it's getting longer. The lines are getting longer. Listen, we're still in the pandemic. People are still getting COVID out there. I just don't want to be my mindset at the airport is I'm not trying to be there all day. I do nonstop flights only. I only do nonstop flights. I can't do connectors. I just can't. My patience, I just can't. One way in, one way out, okay? But like at the airport, I don't want to be at the airport that long. I arrived to the airport like 45, like an hour before the flight time. I just, because I got pre-check. I don't play. I got clear. I'm just going in and out. I'm not trying to eat. I'm not trying to make it an experience. I really don't. Now, some of y'all love to be at the airport and be there for hours and go to restaurants. I just don't. I feel like the stuff be overpriced. I'm on a plane. I'm out. Like I'm not trying to be at the airport that long. That's just my thing. So get pre-check. I highly recommend it this season. Treat yourself. If you can get yourself nails and jewelry and things, get you some pre-check. Don't you want to travel a lot more comfortably and efficiently? Don't you just want to not have to take off all your clothes when you go through the like I don't have to take off anything hardly. I don't think I gotta take off my belt, I don't think at this point. I think all I gotta take off mostly now is my my Bluetooth, my Beats Bluetooth, but that's about it. When you pre-check, okay? They don't do too much. They don't give you too much of a fuss. So just want to put that out there for my people. Like, don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. So lastly, before I get to hot topics, over the weekend, I went to the Attic Youth Center's 30th anniversary celebration. Attic Youth Center is an LGBTQ safe space for youth that are dealing with coming out. Some of them might be couch surfing. Some of them might be displaced because of homophobia and hate. And it's a safe space for certain kids. Years ago, I used to be over there, not as an alum or a participant, but as a mentor. And there are kids that are there that this is a place they sneak to. Some kids are in high schools where they're getting bullied or getting picked on. For being different, for being queer, for being trans. And a lot of young people, some young people, they go to their high schools or schools and they don't feel seen. They're bullied or not bullied. Maybe people just don't know that they're out. They're not out. They don't feel like they could be out in their high schools. So they come to the Attic Youth Center where they're around other kids who are just like them, and they do activities, they do arts and crafts, they do a lot of professional development training to help these kids, potentially get jobs. They also do programming to just help kids feel seen and heard. Maybe they need a mentor or somebody that they can't with their parents or can't with other folks. And, I think about that, like how many places in this country don't have an Attic Youth Center, like a place like that for kids to just be them, So it's a touching organization. So I went. This is my first time going to the neighborhood. I went with my good friend, my good Judy, my bestie Sharon Cooks, and we went there. Fabulous. And I hadn't been in the neighborhood in a long time, like been in the scene. I left and went to Hollywood. No, I'm joking. I went to other opportunities, and also I left the neighborhood there was just so much drama and so much backbiting that I kind of left and didn't look back. I just needed space. But it was interesting because when I went because I was invited. But I was definitely missed. I felt the love in the room. So many people I hadn't seen in years were like thanking me and talk about how much, they see me out here doing my thing and they read what I do and how they think about what I do and how all of this, all of my glow up, because a lot of them, listen, they were some haters back then. Some of them was just like, they used to just, man, the shit they used to fucking say. And look at me now. Nah, I mean it was a homecoming of sorts, and there was some people in there that I saw that I don't I'm good on them. Yeah, we name names on Ernestly speaking sometimes. Like Amber Hikes, I'm still not a fan. Good luck to that woman and what she do, but not my cup of tea. She was there last night, of course. She can't help herself. She can't help to make something about her. I'm okay. Be nice. Be nice. I'm gonna be nice. But she was there. Bless her heart. A couple other folks up in there that I just was like, oh, you still around. But there was a lot of great people I did like, and I had great people I saw. Like, of course, Chris Bartlett, who I'm always hanging out with. So it wasn't like a homecoming for us. It was almost like a, hey man, saw you last week. How you doing? He was at the gala last week, so it was just a catch up. Reggie Shuford, who is now in the South, now doing great work. He used to be over the executive director of the ACLU of Pennsylvania. He stopped and came by for one night, and so it was great to see him. Love Reggie. He's an incredible civil rights attorney, one of the best we have in the country. I saw Rue Landau, the first openly LGBTQ member of City Council to be elected in Philadelphia City Council. She was there. She's always a joy. Bumped into a couple of good folks. My people from Cashman Associates. We was at the Cashman table. It was a good time. But it was just nice to see some folks. And the person that I was there to see the most, which you all saw on the internet and y'all went crazy, was T.S. Madison. She was honored with an award, and she gave quite the speech, actually. She was there, and she was fabulous. So the funny story about her and I actually want to play the audio, if I can, of what she said and put it in context. So let me find I'm gonna play it because I need y'all to hear what she says and explain. Because a lot of y'all was asking like, what was the situation with you and TS? Because it was years ago. So let me find it. Let me see. Let me get it. Let me see if I can play it. Can I play it? I'm gonna play it on my. I know I'm gonna play it on my phone. It's Madison loud, loud, and in color, honey, in Philly, bitch. And I'm gonna come with the Philly. This is the Philly reporter right here. Thank you. The Philly news right here. I remember one time he had read me the Philly. Like, bitch, you need to be doing more with your motherfucking activists. Well, you did, but then guess what? 5 years later, I stepped my pussy up. She did. Thank you. So yes, okay. So let me tell y'all what she was talking about. So, so a couple years ago, when I was the LGBTQ editor for Philly Mag, I covered a lot of stuff in the neighborhood, racism, all these things. When I was covering that, there was a lot of racial discrimination in the neighborhood. There was law, all that work. We got the black and brown stripes on the flag. That was not Amber Hikes. That was the work of myself and the Black and Brown Workers Collective and other folks in the community. But, she liked to get credit all the time, still credit, whatever. So anywho, at the time, there was this big moment where we was at this inflection point where it could have went in a direction of, okay, are people going to go back to these bars? Or are people going to, continue to boycott and protest? And so at the time when Eye Candy was still open, as you know, Eye Candy had shut down a couple years ago. Won't he do it? Won't he do it? But at the time, Eye Candy was like on his deathbed, like that there was a real divestment from that bar, and they were on his deathbed. So they were trying to do any and everything they could to get those black and brown dollars back in there. So they started hiring like big folks, cutting checks to get like popular, black, queer, trans talent. Like they had Singela, the RuPaul's Drag Race person to come. But then they had this one night where they brought T.S. Madison and Christopher Milan. Christopher Milan, that's the guy who was on Love and Hip Hop. He had that salacious magazine cover where he had his private parts and all that showing. This dude, okay, for people who know who that is, this is the guy, if you watch Love and Hip Hop Hollywood, he was on the show having, I guess he was like the first like black gay guy who had a storyline on the show, and he was talking to Milan. It was like Milan. It was Milan. That's his name, like Milan Christopher. His name is Milan Christopher, not Christopher Milan. Milan Christopher, and he was talking to this other guy who I guess was dealing with his balanced sexuality, but it was a whole storyline on Love and Hip Hop. And so he was famous for that. And then T.S. Madison has been famous just because she's been everywhere. And she clearly is still famous. I mean, she was on the song Cozy. She's the person that's saying black skin, brown skin. That's her. That's her. She's the voice that's saying that on the album, of the Renaissance album. That's her. Iconic. So they were doing this event, and at the time I was shocked. I was like, wait a minute, why are y'all being pawns? Why are y'all being tokenized and used in this way? And I was very upset with the two of them. Now, Milan Christopher and I do not talk. He is trash. I don't care for him. And he's kind of irrelevant now, thank goodness. But T.S. Madison and I, at the time, I was very like, wow, why are you doing this? This bar is racist. This is this. This is this. You cannot come here. And she did. She got her bag. But the thing I would say about her is that she was not defensive. She didn't disrespect me. We had a conversation. We followed each other on Twitter, and I gave her a real conversation, like saying, I explained to her, I said, listen, you have this huge platform. You could do a lot more. And this isn't it, right? And she heard that. And she told me this weekend that she never forgot about what I said to her. And since then, she has been very more vocal and more of an activist and advocate for a lot of issues. And she speaks up, and, she definitely took that to heart. And so I hadn't never met her in person. We always kind of followed each other on social media, but it was just great to see her and to have that experience. And who knows, you might be seeing me and her do some things, but she's great. And, it was fun. It was interesting to come back, and me and Sharon were just looking back at the old days and just being like, you remember this, you remember that? But yeah, that was the event. It was a moment. It was definitely a moment. It felt different to return. It's been about 5 years. Because when I leave, I'm a Libra. When I leave something, I never really look back. I don't ever spin the block for people. I spin the block for food, but I don't spin the block for people often. So it was different. It was special. But yeah, so now on to the stuff that's been going on. I feel like there's been so much going on. Republicans are throwing hands. Republicans are throwing hands, literally. I'm like, what is going on? So McCarthy and, the Teamsters, folks, GOP senators challenging the Teamsters to a fight. Like, what are Republicans doing? You know what I'm saying? There's a first rule to Fight Club, it looks like. It seems like there's all types of fights going on between the people. There was this other situation going on. Rep 10 Butchett, or whatever he calls himself, there was a situation last Tuesday where he accused Kevin McCarthy of elbowing him in the kidney, while the Senate Republican also challenged a union leader to a fight during a hearing. They are knucking and bucking and ready to fight over there in Congress. What is going on? It's reminding me of the good old days. Now, this guy right here, Sean O'Brien, who's the International Brother of Teamsters, he's the general president. Now, he spoke at this Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee hearing. It was titled Standing Up Against Corporate Greed, How Unions Are Improving the Lives of Working Families. Now, he experienced somebody trying to take it to the streets. Okay? Like, is the GOP becoming a fight club? It's a lot going on. Of course, the DNC chair called the Republicans fighting in Congress a clown show. That is Jamie Harrison, who says it's a clown show over there. But they want to fight. They want to fight, okay? Like Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, okay, was trying to come to blows. A lot of people was using names. Folks calling folks clown and a fraud. He said, sir, this is a time. This is a place. You want to run your mouth? We can be two consulting adults. We can finish it here, Mullen has said in the hearing room. And O'Brien said, okay, that's fine, perfect. And then Mullen said, you want to do it now? Stand your butt up. Up. He said, I'm sorry. He said, you want to do it now? Stand your butt up then. Listen. This white on white violence, people. Elbow in the kidney. See, let me tell y'all something. The white on white violence. It's the white on white violence for me Now, see, if these were black elected officials, we would have been calling them thugs. But when they do it, it's a, everybody want to make jokes. GOP Fight Club, hee 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 hee. But if it was black people about to go to blows, y'all know it would have been a different conversation. Just keep this note. Can we just keep this? Can we just make sure that we bookmark these two incidents that happened last week and just keep them on the side? I just want to make that known. I just want to make that known that we need to keep that on the side. Just saying. Other news. Y'all, it's finally happened. Tim Scott, the black Republican, the lone black candidate in the race for president, has officially suspended his campaign in his bid to be the Republican nominee for 2024. Okay? He's out. He's done. He's left the building. I think that's a good thing, right? Because we didn't need no more Tim Scott antics. After that last debate, where he was just kind of persona non grata, it's hard to envision him ever having a fighting chance from the jump. But it's become clear that the Republicans need to start. Mike Pence is out. Tim Scott is out. Who's next? I want to see Ron DeSantis go. I think it's time. Remember the momentum for Ron DeSantis? Remember how everybody was like, oh, Ron DeSantis is worse than Trump. Ooh, I'm worried about Ron. Florida. And look at him. And there's no momentum there. I'm keeping an eye on Nikki Haley. But I have this weird inkling. I don't know. This is my suspicion. Could Trump pull a Biden and make Nikki Haley his VP? But see, this is the issue. But I keep going back and forth. People are like, well, she's been dragging Trump so much, I can't envision him doing it. Do y'all remember a woman who ran for president that dragged her soon-to-be executive leader to filth in a way that went viral? Oh, wasn't that Kamala, Senator at the time, Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris, who would later become the VP, when she said, that little girl was me, when she described Biden as being pretty much a segregationist. I just think that's interesting that happened. You don't think that Nikki's playing the same game? I wonder if that's where the energy's going. Nikki in the VP role. She's playing a fierce competition, and then she might work with Trump and be. Listen, they've already kind of worked before. She supported him in the past. It wouldn't be too far-fetched. Would that be the GOP compromise? A Trump as the candidate and Nikki, right? To counter the diversity conversations. Because Nikki Haley is a woman of color. She might deny it, but she is. I knew that race was going to play a role with the GOP. I didn't know who it would be. I mean, Trump won't get Tim Scott. Is Tim Scott maybe the one? Stay woke. George Santos. He's become a reoccurring character on my show. I used to talk about Trump, but, Trump is a person that we need to keep an eye on this election cycle. But George Santos, man, the most interesting guy, in Congress. Fascinating. He's a buffoon, and everybody wants him out. The House Ethics Chairman has introduced a resolution to expel George Santos from Congress. I think it's time, y'all. There was a damning report on its investigation to Santos. People are saying lawmakers are expected to address the resolution at the end of the month once he returned from Thanksgiving holiday. He dodged it. He has survived previous attempts, according to CNN. He has survived many attempts to oust him. And I talked about it a couple weeks ago, but there is growing momentum after this report. Now let's talk about this report, okay? Botox, fake loans, he's been lying. This House ethics investigation of George Santos is nothing to sneeze on, okay? That 56-page report talked about his mess from the beginning. And now it's got people wanting to expel him. He's a freshman Republican. His entire 2 years in Congress, nearly 2 years in Congress, has just been engulfed in controversy and scandal. Okay, the report has showed that he used campaign funds for personal travel and cosmetics. He's been doing Botox. People thought he was sludging. Now, let me say this real quick because y'all, they said he was slugging, which is this technique where you put a lot of Vaseline in your face. Look, I don't do this shit. I just do oil cleansing. But he does, they were saying he was slugging where he was doing a lot of Vaseline on his face. And that's what, nah, child. Look, a girl knows, okay? A doll knows skincare. Okay, I could be an esthetician in my previous life. Okay, that was not no goddamn slugging. Now I don't slug myself, but look it up. It is an interesting skin process. I just don't like it for my skin, but people are into slugging. They said it was slugging. That's why his skin was looking the way it was. Child, it was Botox. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. And why is he doing Botox? He is not that old. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. How old is George Santos? He is 35 years old, child. He's a millennial. He's 35. 35 years old, and he's already doing Botox. Baby, girl. So, some of the other stuff he did, I mean, he was spending bank. He spent $2,200 at resorts in Atlantic City talking about, it was dated as NRCC candidate. He spent $1,400 at a virtual skin spa in Jericho, New York. He spent $225 at City MD in Huntington, New York. He spent $1,500 on the campaign debit card that was made for Mirza Aesthetics, which was not reported on the FEC forum, and it was noted as Botox and expense sheets. He spent $1,400 at a virtual skin spa. Also for Botox, he also had an unreported PayPal payment of $1,000 to an extension with a spa in New York. He spent $4,100 at Hermes. He spent smaller purchases on OnlyFans, Sephora, meals, and parking. He's done a long list of lies. His report said at least 3 housing eviction lawsuits were filed against him and his family, which is wild. Multiple civil judgments filed against him for owing thousands of dollars to creditors. He reimbursed for personal loans he didn't make. He was reimbursed for personal loans he did not make. There's also an ethics panel concludes sexual harassment allegation against him was not substantiated. So there was some allegation of sexual harassment. They said there was not enough substantial evidence to support a sexual harassment allegation that was brought against him. So apparently there was a claim that he may have been involved in sexual misconduct, and this was brought by individuals seeking employment in his congressional office as a staff assistant. But the report said that there was not substantial reason to believe that Representative Santos sexually harassed or discriminated against this witness 10, a prospective employee. So that was one thing. The panel navigated the Department of Justice overlapping criminal probe. So this is going, like, he still has pled not guilty to 23 federal crimes, okay? And some of that stuff the panel looked into, like allegedly misusing campaign funds and lying on House financial disclosures. To be honest, this ethics investigation is going to fuel the DOJ's investigation into him. This man could be spending some serious time behind bars. The consequences are serious. This is serious. Just putting it out there. So, in Philly, I wrote a piece, okay, about customers, and it's been a lot. This op-ed I wrote for Eater Philly, which was one of the most read on the site this past week. I wrote a piece called Recent Philly Restaurant Closings Are a Sign That Diners Must Step It Up. Now, if I could give an award to how many people, hundreds of people, that read that headline, didn't read my piece, did not read my editorial, and just completely judged me based off of the headline, I would be rich. But the headline is Recent Philly Restaurant Closings Are a Sign That Diners Must Step It Up. Support for hometown culinary talent can't be fleeting. It must be sustained consistently. Now, this is interesting. When I wrote this piece, I never thought that this would be something that would garner so much hate and reactions from readers. Now, to be clear, restaurant folks have been loving the piece, but some people that are, I guess, consumers thought that the piece was elitist, thought that, it was insensitive, and thought that, I was ignoring the larger issues. But then I was like, well, where did I not address those issues? And then I realized, oh, they didn't actually read the piece. They just have an opinion about my opinion. And I was like, oh, we are in the era where I call it the shade room era, where no one actually reads stories. The headlines are the stories, and people just will just make an entire opinion based on the headline versus actual stories themselves. Interesting. So I let me just say this. Let me tell you where I come from with the piece. And here we are. There's been a lot of restaurant closings in Philly, y'all. Like, there's been a lot of grand openings, but there's been some grand closings, okay? Eva, which was the city's first independent unionized restaurant, shut its doors 11 months after they joined Local 80. Korshak Bagels, Little Pop Shop, Reckley's Ice Cream, which broke my heart. Those ice cream bars are everything. Relish, The Lucky Whale, The Lunar Inn, Abe Fisher, Merkaz, Wishbone and City Tap House in University City. They're all gone, right? They're all gone. And, this is serious. Like, a lot of these restaurants are closing. And some of them are not, let me be clear, a lot of them are not, there's a lot of reasons why this is happening, okay? There's a lack of business, there's staff burnout, there's rising operational costs, and there's increased, competition. And that's just the reality of the business. There's a lot of reasons why this is happening. I addressed that in my piece. However, one of the things that always kind of annoyed me was when I used to see, diners at these restaurants complain and say things like, or get sad and say, what happened? And where did it go? And I missed this restaurant. And I'm just like, well, where have you been? In the words of Rihanna, in the lyrics of Rihanna, where have you been? Okay? Where have you been all this time? Not all my life, all this time, right? That's what we're doing here. Where were you? And so I wrote this piece from the place of like, there are things like in this restaurant economy space, there are things that we can do as diners to support restaurants. And while people were saying that I was being classist and a snob, people say I'm a socialite. They say, oh, you go to all these restaurants, you can't relate. I always say, shut up. Because you don't read. And if you don't read, you can't talk to me. I want to talk to readers. Folks that read. If you're going to criticize me, read my shit. If you're going to criticize my work, read it and get what I'm saying. So this is the questions I posed to people who are trying to figure out how they can support. Ask yourself these questions. And these were questions I asked myself inward, right? Am I recommending them to others to try? Do I put them on the list of places for my company to host a happy hour holiday party? Do I give them a shout out and follow them on social media? Do I support their special events and tastings? Do I leave a thoughtful review online? Do I tip well? Do I explore their catering options for birthdays, weddings, showers, and more? Do I buy gift cards to spread the joy I have there with someone else? That's real. I asked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 questions. And many of those questions did not actually require the spread of commerce. So, you can call me the capitalist and all those things and say what you want to say, misguided. I've been said a lot of things by white progressives who don't know the fucking nuances of why I can't be that crazy capitalist that you want to project on. And why a lot of restaurants don't fit that description, to be honest. I got something to say about that. Let me hold that, because I want to say this. There are ways to support restaurants and show up for restaurants without going physically there. If you can't afford to go to a restaurant every week, I get it in this economy, right? But if there are restaurants that you love, that you want to see thrive, we all got social media platforms. The way that some of these people got in those comments and wanted to rip the article apart, baby, you could have been following your favorite restaurant and sharing them on your story. The way that Charles said, some of these people were like, oh, I didn't like this piece. You promoted the article. You got it more views. You made the most read article on the entire Eater site, period. Not just the Eater Philly. I'm talking the entire Eater site, period. Imagine if you would have used that energy to promote those restaurants. Congratulations. You played yourself. Because you know what's funny is that I use my platform to promote restaurants this entire time. But what did you do with your time? You spent that time hate reading my piece and making sure thousands of other people hate read the piece too. Congratulations. Who won? Like, if you don't like it, don't read it. There's a lot of things I don't like, I just don't read it. And you know what? I don't actually promote it either. Just saying. We have options, people. We do. But I want to bring up something else that I want to address. Is that there's been all these conversations about capitalism and capitalists and labor this and labor that, and I hear all of it, right? But I think one of the things that is misguided about some of these people making these arguments is that you all act like a lot of these small local restaurants are big, huge capitalist corporate machines. These restaurant owners are doing the best they can. Everybody is in this field is struggling in their own right. I do support. It's so much hypocrisy. I'm about to tell y'all what's so hypocritical about some of the folks that are talking this talk about restaurants and labor and equity and things. There's hypocrisy, and I want you to make it make sense because I'm about to make this full fucking circle. Okay, let's go. So the critique I hear from a lot of people on social media, some people about the restaurant stuff, is that they say, "Oh, workers need to get paid more, fair wages and all that," and I agree. Workers deserve to be paid more, right? They say we need to have a better business model and infrastructure, and that, these greedy restaurant owners. If you know the restaurant business, you know that profits do not turn ginormously. Now, unless you are a part of a major chain, right? Like there is a Steak 48 across the country, lock bars galore, right? Every restaurant is not a fucking McDonald's or a fucking Starbucks. So if you saw Starbucks, people unionizing in Starbucks, right? Yeah, because there's a big old fucking chain with billions of dollars attached. Your little mom and pop shop restaurant is not that place. So when people want to unionize these restaurants that already are struggling, it's not going to work. I don't think that a lot of restaurants, small mom and pop restaurants, can work under a unionized way. I don't personally believe that. I have not seen success. Think about it. Milk and Honey in West Philly, they tried to do unionizing efforts and the restaurant just got shut the fuck down. You look at V Street, right? Rich landowner and them own various restaurants. They tried to unionize there. That shit collapsed. Court Shack Bagels, they tried to do unionizing stuff, and then that fucking fell apart. Then you got Evie, which was the one that did it, right? But 11 months later, it collapsed. It can't work because the way the restaurant system works and the way that the margins don't work, there's no way to do it on a small scale like that. And as somebody, right, who knows the restaurant industry, who's been in it, whose husband's been in this scene, let's keep it 100. The way the current restaurant model is set up, the restaurants that are small mom and pop serving jobs, they're not built in a way to create permanent careers. There are certain jobs in the economy that I personally believe are what I call transition work. You're there for a period of time to get on your feet. You make a salary. You make some money, right? You do what you do, and then you transition to somewhere else. A lot of these restaurants are not in the space to give people full-time jobs. And listen, I hear the complaints. I get it. But let's be realistic and practical about where we currently are right now, rather than simply washing it up and acting like there's this major capitalism and this greed. It's not like that. And if you ain't sitting down, talking to different restaurant owners and actually look at the business model, you will understand that. Like, if you really believe that there could be tons of small niche coffee shops that are going to give people full careers, it's not going to happen. It's not built like that. The bar scene was never built like that. It was built off of temporary jobs, couple of hours. And to be real, we know that there are people who rightfully so work at those places and treat that way. You have actors, right, who are actors. They're people call them starving artists, but they're actors that come and perform. They work on Broadway in between jobs. They use bartending as a way to help support themselves. I wish in a perfect idealistic world, everybody could get a fair, livable job and wage. But the way the system is set up currently, that's not realistic. It's not. And then let me tell you what the criticism I have with these progressives that critique. If we know that the restaurant owner alone can't do it, because they don't have the resources. If we know that the diners can only do so much, right, respectfully, then who needs to do it? The government? Okay. So when City Council, City Council member at large Isaiah Thomas, and Catherine Grimmer Richardson proposed to support businesses. You all said, progressives, they're supporting the business economy. What about the schools? What about this? We can't support them. Well, who in the fuck is supposed to get the money? I just want to understand. It frustrates me. You all said that when they wanted to give money to businesses, restaurants, black-owned restaurants that need the support, you criticized those elected officials and said, oh, they're supporting big fucking business. How much big fucking business in Philadelphia? How many Fortune 500 companies do we have in Philadelphia? How many? Less than your fingers on both of your hands. Okay? It's not that many. You all love to talk about big companies. I'm sorry, a restaurant, a mom and pop restaurant is not big fucking business. Everybody's not some gross capitalist. Owning a business don't make you this gross capitalist. Being a business owner is nothing wrong. It's no shame to owning a business and giving people fucking jobs. And so there are some people out here who are living on a fucking planet that I don't know. And as somebody who's a pragmatic progressive, this is not the work. This is not the fucking work. It's not. This is not what I signed up for. And I'm not a Republican, and I'm not a conservative, and I'm definitely not a moderate. But I'm somebody who is sitting around and having conversations and not being a fucking slacktivist on Twitter. Do I use Twitter? Yes. But I tweet and I fucking meet. And some of y'all need to do more of the latter than the fucking former. We tweet and we meet over here. As a black queer person, I have to do both. I can't sit around and just talk about what things should be. And you know what's so funny? A lot of the people that's anti this and anti that, what do your parents fucking do for a living? Let's talk about it. Let's fucking talk about it. What zip code do you live in? And who supports you when you get around town, want to go to all these goddamn, co-ops and shit? Who supports you? How do you make your money? And what trust fund are you a part of? And what person is keeping you? And what donors support your fucking movement? Because somebody has to get the fuck up and do the work. Somebody's got to put the money in the system. Be real. Be real. Because that's the real talk that no one wants to say. They criticized that legislation because they were so obsessed with Comcast getting a tax write-off that they didn't realize that some of them tax cuts were actually going to help the restaurants that desperately need the money, that needs to support what they need to support. You hate the government, but you want the government to do more. Listen, there are a group of people that are never going to want anything more than to just basically complain. But interesting enough, the folks that are trying to get to the bottom of this shit and wrestle this shit, the ones who actually can't afford to see things collapse. Because what happens to collapse? See, you all come to these communities and gentrify them, and you come here and you take over and you have your little shit. And then when shit falls, you leave. What about the people that still got to stay there? They can't afford to leave. We got to get to a point where we can go back to having conversations and having dialogue to move the fucking needle forward. We're not in a position to throw our hands up, turn our backs, and whine. That's all. So, speaking of things, this weekend, the story came out. That story I've been telling y'all about that was coming, it's come. I did a ride along, and my good friend Joe said, was not on my 2023 bingo card. Neither was it on mine. I did a ride along with the interim police commissioner, John Stanford. The next episode of Ernestly Speaking, okay, which will be next week, we will be, I believe, hearing who the next Philadelphia police commissioner will be. It will be interesting to see who it's going to be. I hear that John Stanford is in the running, but I've also heard names like Kevin Bethel. We'll see who it's going to be. If I had my personal pick, I would choose Stanford over Bethel. If I had to pick the lesser of evils, because law enforcement isn't my forte to, But I did a ride along with John Stanford on October 25th. It required me, first of all, let me tell you what a ride along is. A ride along is when a civilian rides in it could be a marked car, unmarked car with law enforcement. You drive around. Normally, you'll drive around an area where there's a high amount of crime to just see how police patrol or to get an understanding of what it's like to be in their shoes. So I was offered the opportunity to do this a couple of times. I had said no. One, because my history with law enforcement and how I feel about the police. But I think at the third time I was asked, I took some time. I had seen a lot of the stuff that Stanford was doing. And I told myself, is this Ernest the person saying no? Or as a journalist, why I should be saying yes? My mind was telling me no, but my body was telling me yes. There's a time in journalism, and I think about what I do. And this is where my head's been lately, that too often we complain about how police are covered, how crime is covered, how we discuss these issues in the public eye. And we complain and we say, oh, Steve Keeley, he's interviewing this and this and this, and his journalism is terrible, and he's not accurately expressing the issues in the community. And I think to myself, well, who's challenging Steve Keeley? Who's the alternative? Because this is an issue. Crime is an issue in Philadelphia. We can't ignore the issue, right? Well, we can't just always just keep being like, fuck Steve Keeley. I mean, respectfully. Then what is the alternative? Then who do we read and whatnot? There's Mensa Dean, for better or for worse. But there's got to be a different voice. And so when I thought about that ride along offer, I said to myself, if not me, then who? And I looked at my career, and I looked at how I've taken different directions. I love the fun of being unpredictable. I love that people can't ever track my next moves. People have tried it forever. And then I pivot, and I mix it up, and I go in a different direction. And that is what's been missing in local journalism, is people getting out of their comfort zones, doing something different. It's so easy to put on a blonde wig and travel around the country and, put on the luxurious look and flex and flaunt. I mean, that's easy to do. But you know what's not easy to do? Is the work. The actual work. The work of putting yourself in situations of discomfort to reveal and to inform the public. And when I thought about it that way, I was like, yeah, yeah. Because it's so easy, right? It's so easy. It's so easy to say no. And rightfully so, right? Like, I don't encourage people to go on a ride along if they don't want to. It was triggering. You all saw my picture. I wasn't scared, but I definitely was not jolly. It was, my face was serious as fuck because it was very serious. Like, you're putting on a bulletproof vest. You're driving in one of the most, I don't want to use the word dangerous. I think the word to use is an area where there's an increased amount of crime, gunshots. You don't know how that's going to play out. But there's a part of me that felt like, these people will say, look, we tried. He's biased. He can't see the other side. He too scared. And I was like, but I'm not scared of y'all. I'm not scared to talk to the police. Like, I'm not scared to interview. I got to do this. I got to get outside of myself to do this because this is an important moment in our city. We're going to inaugurate and the next mayor of the city is going to be sworn in. We're going to have a brand new police commissioner. We're going to have a very different city council. This is the moment. 8 years ago, under the Kennedy administration, I would have never been given the opportunity to do this type of work. I've waited my entire career to get to this point where I can now challenge these elected officials, these important city leaders. Like, this is the moment. There's been so much mediocrity. Who am I to say no? Because if I say no, the mediocrity continues. Somebody else gets in that ride along, does what some of these people are accusing me of, propaganda, which I would really tell people again, did you really read the piece? Because if you did, it's the furthest from propaganda I think I've seen any type of story about the police that it actually involved the police. It's not propaganda. I know propaganda. I know my intentions. And I think it's so annoying because I'm starting to see progressives some of them act like the very annoying contrarian moderates that they try not to be. Like, you guys some of them are becoming the same types of people that we used to say we didn't want. Like how folks like moderates and conservatives would be like, oh, Black Lives Matter. What about all lives matter? They would just jump to conclusions. They didn't read anything. They made assumptions. I'm starting to see similar traits on the other side. Like, people are just jumping and like y'all not even reading. Like, we just labeling everything. And I mean, granted, I get the frustrations with law enforcement, clearly. But it's just interesting that people are just making leaps. They're not even reading. They don't even care. They look stupid. They just see a cop car. They go, well. And I know there's some trigger there. I'm not trivializing that aspect. But what is interesting is that if we're going to have these serious conversations, then come prepared and come mature. Just saying. But I did the ride along. And I did it because I don't want anybody to pigeonhole my work. I don't want anybody to assume any of my positions. I don't want anybody to reduce my advocacy and my work. Period. Just saying. So the ride along was interesting. John Stanford is a Philly guy, true and true, born and raised. He's 44 years old. He's a Black man. He's a father. He's a husband. He has been in the force for over 20 years. He wants the job.
He wants the job. He wants to be the next permanent Philadelphia police commissioner. And we're going to find out very soon because Mayor-elect Cheryl Parker has announced that she's going to announce the next police commissioner before Thanksgiving. So we're going to find out very, very soon. We're days away from finding out. I don't know who's going to get it, but it's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, I think I think he's ready. There's no such thing as an ideal police commissioner, but we got to be real that there are some that are worse than others on the scale of bullshit, right? Because let's be real, I don't think he's a Frank Rizzo, but he could probably be in the likes of someone like a Ramsey. I could see. But we're gonna see who's gonna be. I hear about Kevin Bethel. Personally, I'm not crazy about Kevin Bethel because, for starters, he needs to live in Philadelphia County. He does not live in Philadelphia County anymore. His work as a police chief for the Philadelphia School District was not that good, in my opinion. I don't really feel like he made much of an impact, in my opinion. I know for a fact from close sources that he was offered this position by the Kennedy administration, turned it down for various reasons. So don't be surprised why I'm cynical about, what he would be doing with the role. I think there's many options we have on the table. And honestly, I think Stanford's the guy, in my opinion. I'm not her. She's getting intel that's different. Sources tell me that Richard Ross and Ramsey, both of them were former police commissioners for Philly, are part of this process. As part of the search committee, which is an uncommon thing. But we'll see. We'll see. So now on to homophobia in Hollywood. There's just been this interesting, or disgusting commonality I see happen in our society where there's always that rumor and that, interest in, gotcha moments or gaydar moments where we see the outing of certain celebrities over and over again. And quite frankly, y'all, it's exhausting as a Black queer person to see it, So it's been a lot of it these past couple of days. Usher's situation with Keke Palmer's mom, Miss Sharon. So you might have heard this clearly, but the saga between Keke Palmer, her baby daddy, Darius Jackson, I'm a little over it now. But I'm, of course, one team Keke, believe in Keke, believe Keke should have that separation. I don't for 5 seconds think that Darius Jackson is the man that he's trying to portray himself in the public. I think there's something going on there, and it doesn't look good for him. But there was a recording that leaked by that showed an argument largely between Keke Palmer's mother and him. And in that conversation, Keke's mother is very angry and very frustrated with him. But she goes into, a side of the conversation that just wasn't good, right? And I guess in the name of trying to defend her daughter and trying to, I guess, squash any suggestions or rumors that Usher and her had a thing because, Darius was just upset about the outfit she wore to that concert during Usher's residency. Keke's mother goes on to accuse Usher and allege that he's gay and that he, sleeps with men. And she just goes into this tirade about it. And I gotta say, it was very, disheartening to hear. It just wasn't cool. And it was just downright homophobic. And I'm just personally annoyed and over the fact that people feel like they have to throw folks under the bus in order to get, to make a point. And I just don't think that's cool. Like, I don't feel like you have to throw other folks or attempt to, right? In the name of trying to defend something else. Because let's be clear, a man who is abusive, a man that is possessive, a man that is controlling don't make these decisions about what the true reality of anyone's sexuality is, another man's presence. It's about what they can't control. Like whether Usher is gay or not, whether it was anything of that nature, had nothing to do with the insecurities of Darius being possessive. I will tell you that as somebody who is an attractive gay man, if I do say so myself, that I have seen girls that I'm cool with have dudes that feel some type of way about the way that I show love to their girlfriend or love interest or whatever. And listen, I have no interest, but the way that I might be making they lady feel, they might feel some type of way. There was a couple of girls that I don't, deal with anymore, that they had boyfriends or dudes that was into them that was hella jealous of the kind of relationship and bond me and their girlfriend had. And it had nothing to do with the fact that I was, into women or not. It was just the mere fact that they did not like that there was a male figure that was showing a level of support and encouragement to their girl in a way that they felt like they couldn't. So, Miss Sharon, with all due respect, Darius doesn't care about whether or not Usher is or isn't gay. It's not your place to make an assumption about what Usher's sexuality is, what you heard. It's not your place to do that. And to be quite honest, if we really want to have conversations about abusers, it's never about any of those things that drive someone to stop doing what they're doing or feel some type of way. It's about the fact that however that individual is making their girl feel, that they feel like they can't do, that's where the jealousy lies. So look, whether Usher sleeps with men or not, or whatever that is irrelevant, because at the end of the day, the way that Usher made Kiki feel that night on that stage is what Darius Dalton clearly fails not to be able to do in his relationship. And that was what was driving the anger and the need for him to publicly try to slut shame her. So when people do the whole, oh, he's gay, I got gay friends and blah, 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 and da, 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 da. Listen. It ain't okay, right? It's never been about that. Men who are possessive and abusive, I will tell you, do not care whether the man is gay or straight or whatever. It is about the personal connection, the lack of control that they feel in situations and environments, okay? And it don't even have to be with someone of the opposite sex. It could be situations in which they just feel like family or other people could be influencing that person to leave the relationship. So Usher's sexual orientation has nothing to do with the conversation. And for you to talk about it adversely, in an adversarial way, that didn't sit well with me. So, but that has nothing to do with Kiki, right? Kiki has family. Everybody has family members that embarrass them in their fights or their advocacy or their plight, right? Isn't And so I don't fault Kiki. I don't think it's her fault, but I do think conversation just needs to be had. Like, it's embarrassing, right? Like, it doesn't feel good to see somebody's information that way get leaked, and it also hinders or distracts from the work. So people are spending more time talking about the Usher shit. But if you listen to the rest, which was wrong, because people love Usher, I love Usher. But what was wrong to me was the fact that the rest of the audio, we're not even realizing that if we're supposed to believe what Miss Sharon says about Usher, then are we to believe the other things that Miss Sharon said in that call, which talked about how, hey, Darius did that there was forewarnings that Darius was allegedly abusive and had problems and his family was messed up and there was issues and signs prior to the incident that took place a couple of weeks ago. Like, that was very telling. And the fact that Darius didn't really push back at all of the things that she was saying made me realize, wow, these problems were persistent and there were warnings for a while. So, if we're to believe, we got to be mindful, right? We can't say that Miss Sharon outed Usher, because to say that is to just automatically believe that Sharon knows what she was saying, or was she just repeating Hollywood gossip, which there's always been gay rumors around Usher. Like there's always been those rumors. And at some point, you just got to go enough, right? And that brings me to the next person, right? Because it just seems like Libras can't get a break. Like Libras be chilling and minding their business and somebody fucks with them. You sit there, Libras be minding business, and we be like, why am I in it? They love to put our name in a conversation. I just can't. It's like always, like Usher can't get a break. It just seems like week after week, somebody want to connect Usher to something that ain't got nothing to do with him. Will Smith, right? Like Will Smith can't catch a goddamn break. My goodness, between his wife's book, between just the consistent persistence of other people, like Will Smith don't hurt nobody except, that one time with Chris Rock, which I felt like was warranted. He don't bother nobody. And so to see Will Smith once again in some unnecessary bullshit. So a former guy who used to work with him years ago, made this horrible allegation on the Tasha K show, which let me just start by saying, why is Tasha K still out here acting like she hasn't been sued for defamation and slander and all these things? Like she don't owe Cardi B millions of dollars. That why is she still talking and why is she still creating a forum that facilitates hate and gossip and mess towards people that she don't fucking know? Like I just don't understand her. And I don't understand why people go on her show still as if this woman is not the magnet for a lawsuit. Again, fucking with other Libras. Cardi B, a Libra. Like, can people leave Libras alone? Seriously, can people leave Libras alone? Like, Cardi B was minding her business, and then Tasha K wanted to sip and make false allegations, rumors about her, call her a prostitute, all that. And look, a Libra gonna get their lick back on principle. She sued Tasha K, knows Tasha K don't have the money to pay it, but she did it to shut her up and let her know, don't fuck with me on principle. And at the end of the day, I've heard Jada Pinkett Smith say to TMZ reporters that she's planning to sue for the misinformation that's been said about Will. So this guy accused Will Smith of having a sexual relationship on the low with actor Dwayne Martin. Now, there's been several innuendo about Dwayne Martin and Will Smith for a long time. It's not news, but the fact that someone close to Will, used to be close to Will, is now saying it is bringing some level of validity to the public in a way that, once again, Will has to deal with these gay rumors that he denies. And so it's like at some point, I'm sick of it as a gay person, as a queer person, because, when I think about Usher and Will Smith, both, talented, successful Libras in their own right. Will has a Grammy and Oscar. Usher has Grammys and #1 hits. I mean, these are two, men who I feel like are comfortable within their skin and their sexuality. I just don't understand why I don't find them to be a problem when it comes in that department. I just don't understand why we're so fixated on trying to make them something that they don't subscribe to. And here's the thing, if they are, why do we fucking care? I don't get straight people sometimes. Y'all be the main one saying, oh, I'm not about this gay life. And, people try to force their sexuality, not on me. And I'm not like this and this. But then you all turn around and keep stirring up, quote unquote, the gay shit. So I just don't know where y'all stand on this. Like, make up your mind. Are you with it or you not? Like, I'm just saying, like, the obsession. And specifically with cishet men, like, my whole thing is I'm on this whole mind your dick. Like, what is it with cishet men, the obsession with wanting to regulate everybody's business? You want to control women's bodies. You want to define masculinity and how men should express their masculinity. You want to tell women what to do with their vaginas and their body and their face and their hair. You want to control everybody around your sexuality. You want to tell transgender people how they should, do sports and how they should be and what they should do. Like, you want to control everybody's fucking body but your own. You can't control your dick. You can't control your erections. You can't control your ability not to rape women. You can't control your ability not sexually harass folks. You can do your shit can be out of control, but everybody else, a man gonna be a man, you say, right? Some of these excuses. You want to control everybody else's body and how they are in their autonomy, but somehow you can't control yours. Make it make sense. Mind your dick. That's what I'm going to start telling straight men. Like, I'm tired of these debates and these conversations about gay people and is it natural, is it not natural? Why does it fucking matter? Why do you care? Mind your dick. Because that's not checked. The main men that I know that have so much to say about everybody else's body can't control their erections, can't control their dicks, can't control what they do with it, okay? Just saying. It's interesting that the ones who got the most to say be the ones out of control. Find me a respectful, mild-mannered cishet man that cares about women's bodies and what gay people are doing and what transgender people are doing and don't have any issues amongst themselves. Find me that man. I don't know that man. The cishet men that I've met that have so much to say about what women do with their bodies, that got so much to say about transgender people, got so much to say about sexual orientation, are the main ones who find themselves consistently harassing and, disrespecting women in their personal lives. A hit dog will holler. Always. Always. And so, I think that in these times when I see these allegations, I'm often reminded of how cishet people really do feel about gay people. I recognize why people have a hard time coming out. When I look at the 10 years, many years ago when I was at Penn, this was 2010. We a liberal, a quote unquote liberal arts college where there's progressives and yada, yada, yada. I think about my friends who were on that journey with me, Nina and Sam and Amanda and Jessica and them, and the way that cishet men in our community, in our spaces, treated me and how they talked about me and how they were fixated on my sexual orientation, even when I was not. How many times, I would shoot to go to be a part of organizations and clubs, and they'll say things. And again, this is the 2010s, y'all. So this ain't that long ago. These people will say things like, "Oh, he's really smart and he's cool, but I don't know because he's gay." It was like my sexual orientation was treated as a hindrance in a way. Like everything was right except that. I don't know. And how some of these guys, straight guys, would act funny around me and really other me, because I was out, right? And they had people they knew certain people in our school that were potentially, or what they would call sus, right? And they knew, but as long as you didn't say it out loud, you couldn't be who you were out loud. Folks can gossip about it and rumor about it, but if you was actually out, there was a problem. And I came into the school swinging. I came into the school on day one gay. Like I didn't hide my sexual orientation. I had did that somewhat in college, in my earlier parts of my college year. In high school. In my earlier high school years, I had did that. And then eventually I came out on campus in high school. And then when I went to college, I did not hold back to my classmates and people. I was myself. I came to Philadelphia to be my true self. And it was not easy socially. Like, in some aspects, I was campus wide, but amongst Black students that I went to school with, my social experiences were very complicated because some of the same guys that would outwardly call me a faggot out loud were some of the same guys that was in my DMs and trying to have a thing. I watched this film Rustin, and I think people should watch it. We're going to talk more about it. The Netflix film Rustin, but my goodness, I could relate to that situation. If you've seen the film, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it, you got to see it. I'm going to talk more about it in a couple of minutes. But I really felt that connection that Bayard Rustin dealt with. Like you have these men who are these are people that I think about some of them now. They're senior VPs and they're at, consulting firms and they're lawyers now. They're teachers and professors and they're running for office and they're doing all these things. Some of them got wives now. And it's interesting because all of that homophobia that I saw and knew and experienced, and some of them who were closeted because of that hate, right? They now are out here in the world as, Ivy League grads that are supposed to be, future leaders. but they hold a lot of self-hate and some of them bigotry that makes me wonder, you know? And so when people think about like, oh, how did Donald Trump come from Penn and how did, you know, that's where they are, a lot of them, you know? That listen, these Ivy League institutions, as you can see in the news lately, are not necessarily molding people that are socially conscious and woke and all those things. That's why I laugh when Republicans like Ted Cruz and them say that, because I'm like, but Ted Cruz, my dear, didn't you go to Harvard Law School? Like didn't the Bushes come from Yale? Like a lot of your faves, like, you know, oh, I don't know, Ron DeSantis went to Harvard Law School. Did you know that? Like all of these people went to Ivy League schools that are conservatives. And so it's interesting how they play like, oh, there's this liberal obsession, this liberal culture of like, you know, wokeism being in these colleges. But like the gag is there is also a long historical strand of deep-seated bigotry that's also come out of here that have found itself in the Supreme Courts. But I digress. What do I know? You know, Brett Kavanaugh came from an Ivy League school. Like, come on, like he went to Yale. Why are we acting like all the people that come out of these places become the most outstanding gentlemen? There are a couple of barbaric pigs as well, like a lot of them. So it's very interesting. You know, there are men that have raped women on campus and have gone off to have careers and jobs. You know, it's interesting seeing some of these black men that were in fraternities that did not allow me to enter. You know, I'm in a position now that I can say a couple of things. When I was in college, I wanted to be an alpha. And this boy, which will go unnamed, literally said out loud, who, you know, oh, there'll be no faggot on my line. But this is a man who literally sexually harassed girls on campus, always pulled his dick out to knock on the fucking door of, dorm rooms of girls and, you know, stayed around as a creep and was always a creep. And this guy is got a PhD in education and now he's, you know, out here acting like he's some advocate for equity. And I'm just like, oh, but you're a fucking idiot. But, you know, listen, it's those things that I remember. And I remember that a lot of the men that was a part of that fraternity were closeted until they graduated. And then they got their degrees and then they decided to then come out. And these were the same people that while I was in school hitting me up in my DMs trying to see what's good or actually trying to, you know, stop me from being a part of other organizations. And it was not because I wasn't talented enough or I didn't know the shit, I wasn't good enough, whatever the case is. It was literally because they had the fear that my presence in those spaces would put pressure on them to, you know, it made them uncomfortable. Or the reality is they just was jealous because here I was having Black queer joy that they could not contain. And they wanted to justify while they were in the closet. So they wanted to make it not fun or cool to be out. But in spite of all of that, I persisted nonetheless. And here we are over 10 years later. And, you know, look, my wedding got covered in the New York Times. And some of them are still on the apps. Just bless their heart. So this leads me to my Ask Ernest question, which you all asked me. How do I feel about outing folks? Like the way, given the light of what happened to Will and Usher this week, how do I feel about outing folks? And my take has always been consistent. And I'll say this. I feel like unless the person is a huge hypocrite that is causing harm to the LGBTQI community, and they are a hypocrite living a double life, and they're in a position of power where they're like a Republican in Congress or somebody who's in the clergy that's spreading misinformation and hate. I don't believe that outing a person and that is not in that type of hypocrisy is necessary. Like if Usher and Will Smith, who are not harming the community, they're living their lives, why are we outing them? What are we trying to expose? What are we trying to reveal in a way that critiques an issue? What is the reason? What is the reason? That's the point, right? To me, that they're like, we don't need to know until they choose, right? But when you're dealing with Republicans, right, conservatives and bigots that are causing harm in our community, trying to dehumanize those who are queer, right? Those who are transgender, and trying to act as though that we're some alien and that we're some type of, obscene thing. But we find out that those individuals are just like us. I do think that we should call that hypocrisy out. We should name it, because a lot of times it forces their groups, their hate groups, their communities to look inward and realize that this rhetoric of we're not human, that we're unnatural, that we're so sinful. Well, if it's good for the geese, it's good for the gander, right? And I've been in situations where the same people that called me a faggot were the same people that I had to let people know, oh, you're not going to bully me. Because it's really about confronting a bully, right? Will Smith is not a bully to the LGBTQI community. Usher's not a bully to the LGBTQI community. These men have never, to my understanding and recent memory, have been hurtful to us. So I don't understand the need to say anything about their personal lives and their own discretions if these rumors are true. But to the people that bully us and call us out and call us names and tease, well, then put the mirror up on their face and reveal their hypocrisy if necessary. And I think there's power in that. Because a lot of times, like what we saw when there was situations where we saw Republicans who were critical, and we find out that these people were out here, right? It meant something. It showed the public that this was more common. And in many ways, it demanded people to stop acting like they had this magical gaydar of knowing. Just saying. Okay? Just saying. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. So Diddy, right? Diddy. A lot has been said about Diddy in the press. I don't want to beat a dead horse. What I will say, though, is that, Cassie Ventura, which is the artist we know as Cassie, she reached a settlement in her lawsuit. She accused Diddy of a lot of things. But she, this happened within 24 hours. And my book, The Case for Council Culture, my goodness, how timely is this book, y'all? It's so timely, right? This is the stuff that we talk about, right? It's a lot to be said, but to be clear, is the terms of the settlement was never disclosed. There was lots of lies that was said, but before I get into what led to it, let's start from the beginning. She on this past Thursday filed a complaint, and she basically accused this man. Sean Combs is 54 years old. Cassie is 37. I just want y'all to hear that age difference. That's a 17-year age difference. They dated on and off from about 2007 to 2018. This was 11 years, right? Okay, let's do our math, okay? So she's 37 years old. Okay, let's go back. That's 3 years, so that 21 years old. She dated him. He was 38. What is a 38-year-old man doing with a 21-year-old or 20-year-old woman? Like, what are we doing here, right? They started working together in 2005, to which in 2005, that's when they met, when she was 19 years old, and she signed to his label, and then they started dating 2 years later when she was around 21 years old. Diddy was 36 when she was 19. I'm just going to state these facts. We're having a lot of conversations about grooming, and I feel like we're at this point where we're having these real conversations that we've ignored as a collective for a long time. But there seems to be a pattern here, and I'm just putting that out there. I'm just going to let you all sit with that dynamic. Because we all saw this, and we just kind of act like it was normal. So on Thursday, she had told the press, after years in silence and darkness, I am finally ready to tell my story and to speak up on behalf of myself and for the benefit of other women who face violence and abuse in their relationships. With the expiration of New York's Adult Survivors Act fast approaching, it became clear that this was an opportunity to speak up about the trauma I have experienced and that I will be recovering from for the rest of my life. She said, according to the allegations made in this civil suit, okay? Civil suit. We'll get to why that matters in a minute. Basically, it accuses Diddy of raping her in her home after she tried to leave him, often punched, beat, kicked, and stumped on her, resulting in bruises, burst lips, black eyes, and bleeding. She also said that in 2012, he blew up rapper Kid Cudi's car after finding out he was interested in dating Cassie. In this statement, Diddy's lawyers denied the allegations on behalf of Combs and claimed that Cassie attempted to blackmail him for $30 million. See, let's be clear. See, the headlines are messed up. They said that Cassie was suing Diddy for $30 million. That was never true. The initial civil suit never named the damages or any of the amounts or any of that. She was suing him. They never knew it. The lawyer, Diddy's lawyer, was the one who kept implying that. He said in a statement that was sent to CBS News, Mr. Combs vehemently denies these offensive and outrageous allegations. For the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has been subjected to Miss Ventura's, this is Cassie's, Miss Ventura's persistent demand of $30 million under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as blatant blackmail. However, Cassie's lawyer said that it was Combs who offered her, quote, 8 figures to silence her and prevent the filing of this lawsuit. So somebody said at the time that it's advantageous for both sides to reach a quick settlement, which is what a CBS News legal contributor and Loyola Law School professor named Jessica Levinson said to them. She said, for Sean Combs, he doesn't want this to drag out. He doesn't want us to keep talking about the allegations against him. And she was right. Within 24 hours, she reached a settlement just one day after bringing a federal lawsuit in New York against him. Cassie got the settlement. She said in a statement, I have decided to resolve this matter amicably on terms that I have some level of control. I want to thank my family, fans, and lawyers for their unwavering support. And then, Diddy said on his end in a statement that we have decided to resolve this matter amicably. I wish Cassie and her family all the best love. However, there was another statement by his attorney that said, just so we're clear, a decision to settle a lawsuit, especially in 2023, is in no way an admission of wrongdoing. Mr. Combs' decision to settle the lawsuit does not in any way undermine his flat-out denial of the claims. He is happy they got to a mutual settlement and wishes Miss Ventura the best. Now, we do not know how much the settlement is. Terms of the settlement were not disclosed. But let's be clear. I believe Cassie. And to be honest, I feel like what people understand is that when things go in discovery, basically when you do a lawsuit and people start to go in discovery, meaning they start to subpoena people, get information, more tea will come out and more could have came out publicly that could have validated the claims. At the end of the day, we're spending so much time questioning whether or not Cassie's telling the truth. There's idiots like Jason Lee on the internet saying, well, if I didn't do it, I would have settled. Nah. Why did he settle? Why did Michael Jackson settle? Yeah, I went there. Look, we see Lizzo right now, right? Lizzo is fighting these lawsuits. Lizzo is not settled. Lizzo could easily just say, you know what, I ain't going to do this lawsuit. I'm just going to settle. But Lizzo's like, y'all not about to sit up and just blatantly lie on me. I don't know, right? Lizzo is pushing back. Lizzo is challenging, right? Lizzo is not going to allow it. She just blatantly denies a lot of the stuff that's been said, and she's fighting the situation. She's not settling as of right now. I'm not saying that means Lizzo's innocent. I'm just saying that the fact that Lizzo is not just going to settle within 24 hours, I just feel like Cassie knows the receipts. And I also think that Diddy saw how fast things went from 0 to 100 in the situation. You talking about a whole situation. You talking about I mean, within 24 hours, we learn not just about Cassie, but we look at, Danity Kane. We look at, Audrey O'Day. We look at Dawn Richard. Because she doesn't like to be called Don Richard, y'all. She likes to be called Don Richard. But you see these two women who supported Cassie out loud, and how many times Audrey over the years had said things about Diddy. You see a lot of things resurface. The Young Jock video. He did an interview talking about how the reason behind why Cassie had shaved her hair was because he forced her. The fact that they said apparently he wanted her to have white nails like he did some other woman he was dating. Like, there was all these types of accusations about women that said Diddy was abusive. And there was some homophobia from people saying that they think Diddy's gay and that's the reason why he was abusive to Cassie. Can y'all stop trying to demonize gay men? Why is it that it's so easy for y'all to try to insinuate some sexuality to justify their abuse? But what is the justification for all these cishet men that abuse women? I mean, y'all don't tie that to anything, but somehow Diddy's sexuality got something to do for why he allegedly abused Cassie. Come the fuck on. Like, I just make the fuck sense. Just stop. Just stop trying to vilify people's sexuality. Stop trying to vilify gay people. Keep us the fuck out your mouths. Mind your dick. For real. Seriously. Mind your dick. I'm not, it's a lot of things. I mean, the Usher, we're reminded about how Diddy was a guardian over Usher when he was 14 years old, and Usher was living with him in a situation that led to Usher being exposed to, not partaking per se, but being in an environment where there was sex, wild parties, and drugs and things. And he's talked about this on previous years ago, and we never pay much attention to it because I believe because he was a man, and so no one took those matters seriously. But when we hear these stories about Paris Hilton and Britney Spears and all the issues they dealt with, there seems to be some interest in considering their rocky childhoods, or like the stories of what Drew Barrymore was exposed to, right? But we don't consider Usher. Like, Usher was a young star. Clearly, he made a name for himself. Clearly, he turned out pretty okay, right? But still does not mean that this man, when he was a young underage person, should not have been exposed to some interesting things. I mean, even Diddy, people are talking about the couple of days that Justin Bieber at a very, very young age hung out with Diddy. And like, people are reevaluating what was that about, right? There's been a lot of things that have come out lately in those 24 hours that, quite frankly, if this circus would have gone on for days on end, we don't know how much more damaging things would have been said. I just think it's interesting that Diddy has been very, he talks about how he was in a dark place at one point when he thanked Cassie for being on his side a couple of years ago when he won an award. It's been very just bizarre. And Cassie moved on and married, and, she just really got away from him. And it's a lot of things, man. It's a lot of things. I mean, we hear about, how he did Lil' Kim, Lil' Kim talked about how when she was incarcerated at one point in her life, he didn't send her any letters of support, how controlling he was with her when, there was opportunity for her to potentially be on a song with Michael Jackson back in the day, and how that never moved forward, that he's always been a railroad in other people's careers, and his insecurities and some of his questionable, alleged abusive ways. I mean, my goodness, what we've heard about this man has been a lot. So, listen, I'm happy that, there are journalists that it's been interesting seeing how the media has covered this. I'm very disappointed in the Black press that has not stepped up, did not really say anything about this when it first happened. I mean, all these major Black publications said nothing. And I think it's interesting that the bloggers, a lot of these Black bloggers, the Jason Lees, who will be ignorant enough to try to insert their own personal experiences. But to be clear, I need people to remember that these bloggers, right? Like, there's people that don't like Megan, the reporter, the white woman who've been covering who covered the Meg Thee Stallion case with Tory Lanez. People don't understand any of how the court systems work. And there were people trying to, infer, it's white privilege that she got to cover it. It's not true. The Black media, Black-owned media, a lot of these outlets do not actually support real reporting and journalism. They are so in bed with sponsors and advertisers and trying to kiss ass to all these publicists and PR folks and celebrities that you barely actually see any hardcore reporting coming out of those places. I mean, I miss the days of Touré. I miss the days of Vibe. I miss the days of Dream Hampton and all those serious profile pieces that used to really interrogate and look into celebrities in ways that was serious journalism. Nowadays, I just see nothing but fluff pieces and front cover stories, and some of these, entertainment reporters are never asking tough questions. They just are so hyped that they got some cover story with somebody. But when you read the articles and you read the stories, they're not saying anything substantial. And I fought my career not to be those people. There's people that walk around here and got all these interviews with these celebrities and they flex about it. But it's like, what are you talking about? Can we bring reporting back? Like, can we actually bring folks that are doing the digging? And that's why, as a black journalist, as a black journalist that covers politics and these issues, I have been very personally invested in the education of improving the pipeline so that there are more black journalists that are like me out here doing this work and not out here just bloggers ass kissing with gossip. Like, why is everybody that want to do journalism nowadays in our community so fixated in doing sports reporting, which is no shade to sports reporting, but it's just like we can do more things, right? We can carry multitudes. Why is it that we're seeing a lot of people going to sports reporting or the entertainment Hollywood shit? Like, where are we in keeping people interested in covering local politics? Like, I don't like to be the only one in these rooms or one of the few or one of the only young people in local politics that's black. It's just, it's not flattering to me. I'm trying to build a cohort. I'm trying to build a pipeline through the work I do at the Philadelphia Association of Black Journalists, the work that I'm starting to do in teaching and going to HBCUs. Like, this is my personal passion project outside of journalism alone, is to really improve the future of it, because quite frankly, there is some serious deficits. And the deficits is not just only the fault of the man. It's not just white people. It's our community having this weird relationship with journalism where we expect only one way of covering, that we can only do quote unquote good stories, quote unquote positive stories. And I say that with air parentheses, because if there's a story where we're seeing black women triumph over abuse in our community, that's a positive story to me. But there's too many people that like to talk about, oh, you're bringing this person down. Listen, stop it. In certain cases, these individuals are bringing themselves down. Nobody is bringing Darius Jackson down except Darius Jackson. Nobody brought R. Kelly down more than R. Kelly bringing himself down with the shit that he did. So I'm tired of people blaming the press. But what we got to also be holding people accountable of is the type of media they consume. Stop having the conversation about Joe Budden. Joe Budden is not a journalist. Stop having a conversation with me about Jason Lee. He's not a journalist. But you know what? I don't blame you for your confusion. Because when you have people like the White House giving out people like Jason Lee press pass invitations and leaving out actual legitimate journalists who know the difference between filing a civil suit and pressing criminal charges, I can see why you're confused. Okay? Because let's be clear, this man is out here talking about ain't no settlement in the world that would stop me from prosecuting a person who violated me. You idiot. The state prosecutes, the city prosecutes, the district attorney prosecutes the accused, not victims, not the accusers, you dumbass. But that's the problem, right? This is a man who makes millions of dollars to give opinions and act like his opinions are facts. And this man makes millions of dollars. Joe Budden gets to cherry pick what he wants to talk about, but he don't talk about Diddy, and you all feel like there's more energy to discuss that than to discuss actual journalists like me that's trying to find the facts. Enough with the culture critics. Enough with the gossip bloggers. Enough with the Tasha K's. Enough with all these people that's commentating on shit. It's time to start fucking reporting shit. Get out a keypad and get the fuck typing and do the fucking work. We need to go back to people actually substantiating the shit they say with fucking facts. When you listen to Ernestly speaking, I don't give you an opinion that does not come from the facts that I'm provided or that I do independently source. That's how you have a conversation. All of this, that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion. Listen, you're going to get sued for your opinions out here. And that's what's happening. Because you're out here presenting opinions like it's the law of the land, and it's causing harm to folks' reputations. And if you can't back that shit up, you're walking yourself into some shit. So I just think there's a lot of times people need to slow down, and people need to be mindful about what they're consuming and stop acting like they're special. There's a lot of people that walk around here acting like they're special, like, oh, I can decipher between an opinion and fact. No, you can't. And I tell this all the time. There's people on Twitter every day giving out unsolicited opinions, and folks want to argue with them. We got to start engaging with people of power and with experts. I'm not going to sit up and argue with a rando on Twitter that has some stupid hot take that don't mean shit. We got to stop. We got to slow down. I'll give an example. Beyonce. I'm so sick of all these random Twitter people. And I got to tell you, some of my friends, they be irking me a little bit because they'll send me something from some random person that's putting out something about Beyonce. And I'll be like, every time y'all try to predict Beyonce's moves, Beyonce turns around and laughs and say, where did you get it from? There was a situation recently where somebody sent me something, I sent it to somebody, but the New York Post actually published this story that claimed that Beyonce was going to perform in Vegas. Now, it was a media outlet, but the New York Post is a gossipy tabloidy site, but sometimes they're hit or miss, right? But there was people that was adding on to that story about, oh, how she's top secret, she got these dancers, it's going to be at this place. And Yvette, who just had a birthday, she just turned 60-something, which I didn't even realize she was in her 60s. But Yvette, who is Beyonce's publicist, Yvette is basically said this is not true. This is categorically not true. There's no truth to this rumor. I was like, wow. Yvette Shuri basically said there's no truth to this and just shut it down right there. And I was like, damn, just like that. Just like that. So we just, as a community, as a people, just have to we got to stop feeding the beast. We just got to stop running with every single thing we hear in the streets, period. So in movies that I've watched three, but two that are out right now that you can watch on Netflix. It is Nyad, which is this biopic about Diana Nyad, who was this incredible, well, she's still alive, so let me get that correct. But this film is about this 64-year-old marathon swimmer who attempts to become the first person ever to swim from Cuba to Florida. It's based on a true story. It actually happened. Annette Bening, who's a 4-time Academy Award nominee, who I believe will be getting her 5th Best Actress nomination. Well, she's been nominated for Best Supporting Actress in the past. This will be her 5th Academy Award nomination, I believe, for this performance. She was in The Grifters, American Beauty, Being Julia, which is one of my favorite films. I love Being Julia, underrated. She was in The Kids Are All Right, and I believe she'll get her 5th nomination for Nyad. Also, another person in this film that killed it was Jodie Foster playing her friend Bonnie Stoll. This is based on a true story. It's an incredible film. Annette Bening's playing a lesbian yet again. She loves playing a lesbian. Annette Bening is married to Warren Beatty. But for whatever reason, Annette Bening loves to play a lesbian, okay? And she plays a good one. Her last Best Actress nomination was in the film The Kids Are All Right alongside Julianne Moore. And look, I thought that performance was great. And who was in it? It was also another guy who got an Oscar nomination. And he's so progressive. He got a nomination as well. That cast was incredible. Mark Ruffalo. Yes, Mark Ruffalo. He was in it. And he got nominated because he was like the sperm donor in the film. And that came out 2010. It was like over a decade ago. And so it's been about 14 years since she's gotten an Oscar nomination. So she is kind of long overdue. She's been in some other good films since then, but wow, 14 years since Annette. Look, she's another one that's under next to Amy Adams. You got to wonder, why has Annette Bening not won an Oscar? Well, two times she tried to get an Oscar. She lost to Hilary Swank. One for that iconic film Boys Don't Cry, when Annette Bening was in American Beauty, which was a really great performance. Some people argue it was more of a supporting role, but I think it was leading in my opinion. And then the other film was Being Julia, which was a great performance. But Hilary Swank, once again, ate in Million Dollar Baby, which was a big smash hit film that year. So, it's interesting what happens with the roles. But I said all to say that Jodie Foster was Bonnie Stowe. I could see Jodie Foster getting a Best Supporting Actress nomination. She was also good in this film. And it was really good. I really enjoyed the film. I encourage you all to watch it. It's on Netflix right now. But the other film that just took it away from me, that really inspired me and just really just made me feel good all around, and that's Rustin, which is this biopic about Bayard Rustin, the iconic black gay civil rights icon who was long overdue for a biopic. I found out about him in college when so many of the books I was reading focused a lot on conversations about, straight black men in the civil rights movement. I was like, there was no one out in queer. We heard a little bit about Langston Hughes. Of course, we heard about James Baldwin, but what about others? And I read a book called Lost Prophet that changed my life. And this book was all about the legendary Bayard Rustin, who, interesting enough, went to Cheney University. That invisible string I talk about, people. And basically was this outspoken civil rights leader who was out and proud at a time where that was not hip. This man went through a lot. They tried to erase him from the history books because he was gay. His involvement in the iconic March on Washington, the Washington rally in DC that gave us the iconic I Have a Dream speech, that was organized and co-led and co-organized by an openly black gay man in the 1960s. And this man hails from Pennsylvania in Westchester. There is a history here. And here I am, over 50 years later, 60 years later, teaching his course, teaching about him in that school, being out and proud and being myself. And here we are. History. We spend so much time acting as though the gay, when I hear this rhetoric of, oh, they're pushing a gay agenda. We need to go back to the old days with our civil rights leaders when they were family oriented and straight and blah, 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 blah. Bullshit. We were there. We were there. We were here. We were here. We're here now. And we were there. We were here then. And history did not erase it. I got to thank the Obamas. Barack and Michelle Obama are the executive producers of this incredible film. Coleman Domingo, who is actually a black queer actor who's out, right? He won an Emmy for his performance on Euphoria. And he is playing the role. And there's a lot of people who's in this film. Audrey McDonald, Chris Rock is in the film. Interesting enough. There's this other Jeffrey Wright is in the film. There's a lot of actors that we know. It's a very well done film. There's some interesting storylines. Everything about the film is pretty much accurate. There is some historical liberties taken in one aspect. So I don't want to tell too much of the film, but there's a love interest in the film with Bayard Rustin throughout the entire film. There's this journey with him and some trade, if you know what trade means. But him and this guy have this little love affair going on, and it's very interesting. That is not a real relationship. However, what I will tell you is that throughout Bayard's memoirs and biographies, he speaks of these types of relationships that were basically heartbreaking, and lovers that he had that, couldn't fully be their true selves at that time because of the way the world was. But he hints at it. So there is this storyline that is in the midst of everything else being said, which is historically accurate, right? So things that are accurate, that there was the threat by members of the NAACP at the time that they didn't want Bayard Rustin front and center because of his sexual orientation. And there was a point in which Congressman Adam Clayton Powell, this black congressman, had allegedly threatened to put out rumors in the press that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Bayard Rustin had a sexual relationship, that they had a private gay relationship. That's not true. There's been nothing historically to substantiate that. They were very close friends, but that was never the nature of the relationship. There's been no proof of that, okay? But interesting enough, because of how much people back then were intimidated by Bayard Rustin's genius, they weaponized his sexual orientation against them, and they perpetuated oppressive and discriminatory. And this was happening not just in America by white folks, but actually within the black community as he tried to advocate for the civil rights of his own folks. So sometimes it is your own people, and what a disappointment, right? But I say all this to say that here we are, November 20th, 2013, historically interesting, Obama posthumously awarded him with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He did that 10 years ago, November 20th. And if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, if you're listening to this and you're on the first listen, what is today's date? Exactly. How unique is it that 10 years ago, Bayard Rustin was given the Medal of Freedom? Now, he died in 1987 at the age of 75. He has a very complicated history, but his legacy lives on. His legacy lives on. He fought for gay rights, labor rights. There was aspects of him around social justice. Some people consider him a socialist. I mean, he has a very interesting life. And I will tell you, there is, for fun people, there is an incredible podcast called the Bayard Rustin Podcast. For Netflix. Netflix has a supplementary podcast that they did of some episodes, a couple of episodes, to talk about the documentary, the film. It's not a documentary, it's a biopic, but there's I believe 5 or 6 episodes of this podcast. It is hosted by Tre'vell Anderson, which they are a transgender, non-binary, black, queer journalist. And they brought me on the show to do an episode with another scholar to talk about Bayard's complex legacy. I don't know which episode I'm on, but if you're interested in this podcast, it's on Netflix. I think it's called the Rustin Podcast. The first 2 episodes just came out. But it's called the official Rustin Podcast. Yes, the official Rustin Podcast. And it's called the Official Rustin Podcast Netflix. It is the official companion podcast to the original Netflix film Rustin. So the way they describe it is each week, journalist and author Tre'vell Anderson builds a world of context by bringing you insights, anecdotes, and behind-the-scenes perspectives through conversation with the artists who made the film. You also hear from scholars, journalists, and activists as they wrestle with the legacy of Bayard Rustin, one of the civil rights movement's most complicated and compelling figures. He challenged authority. He never apologized for who he was, and despite making history, he was nearly forgotten until now. They will include bonus audio from a newly created walking tour of the National Mall in Washington, D.C., that commemorating Rustin's role in organizing the historic 1963 March on Washington. So there's 2 episodes out now. I'm not in those first 2 episodes, but you will see me probably in episode 3, 4, or 5, but I'm coming. The episode is really spicy. We get into it, but it's on Apple Podcasts. It's called the Official Rustin Podcast. So if you want to watch the film first and then follow with this podcast. It's super fun. If you want to skip the episode, just listen to mine. I mean, I don't blame you because it's going to be good. But there's some really great conversations on that episode and also throughout the podcast. So shameless plug, check it out. Now with music, Andre 3000. Let me back up. Let me take a little moment. Let me make this little plug real quick. If you have not heard, The Color Purple has been getting rave reviews. It comes out on Christmas, but I was one of the people who got to see it before it comes out. The Color Purple is on fire, y'all. I have to tell you, I warn you now, it is one of the best films of 2023. I see tons of Oscar nominations. I think that Fantasia Barrino is going to get an Oscar nomination for Best Actress. The role of Celie is a signature role, but she kills it. Listen, do not ever bet against Oprah when it comes to anything related to The Color Purple. From the Broadway musical, from the original film, anything with The Color Purple involved in it, and Oprah is going to be a success. This remake of this film, I want to say the film adaptation to this musical is legendary. It is so good, I will put it in the top 5 of the Mount Rushmores of musical films. I'm talking Cabaret, Chicago, Dreamgirls good. Like, this is like one of the better Broadway to film adaptations I've seen ever, okay? There's been a drought lately. I feel like after Les Miserables, when they tried to do the film adaptation of that, which it was pretty, good in its own right, we have seen a lot of films not have the right proper press. Like, seriously, there are people out here who have not fully embraced the musicals. They just don't do well. Like, Hairspray was aight. Cats was goddammit horrible. In the Heights was colorist as fuck. I mean, there's just not been that many really great musical films, that have been able to be successful. I think that The Color Purple is going to break that curse. I feel like The Color Purple musical is that musical. I mean, the acting is phenomenal. Coleman Domingo's in that as well. Who else is? I mean, everyone's in that film. Holly Bailey is in it. Taraji P. Henson, who I think has the potential of getting an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actress for playing Shug Avery. But the woman who I think will get an Oscar and is going to win that category for Best Supporting Actress, I think Danielle Brooks is going to win. I feel like she's a screen stealer. I just don't see her not winning. I mean, there is speculation that there is another great actress / comedian, Divine Joy Randolph, who's in this really great film that is also good called The Holdovers. I've been hearing good things about her. Now, she received a Tony nomination for Best Featured Actress in a Musical. She's 37 years old, and she was in Ghost the Musical and got a nomination for that years ago. A lot of people love Divine Joy Randolph. I mean, she was in Dolomite is my name. Dolomite is my name. She was really good at that. She's been up and coming, and a lot of people think that she has potential. Her role and performance in The Holdovers is pretty damn good. So if there's anybody that's going to give Danielle Brooks a fight, I would say it's another Black actress named Divine Joy Randolph. We have the opportunity, y'all, of seeing 3 Black women in the Best Supporting Actress category, which would be awesome. I think we've seen that previously with Viola Davis and Naomi, who was in Moonlight. But I don't know if it was 3 actresses then who was in that film. Black actress that was nominated that year. I think Olivia Spencer was in it, but I think no, I don't think so. I think it was just 2. So this might be something new. The actress in that film was Naomi Harris, who's a British actress. She's an incredible actress, but I haven't seen three Black women in Best Supporting Actress in the category. I don't think there's a potential that could happen this time around with these performances, but it's great. I mean, I definitely think that the curse that was from the 1985 film, right, which got 11 Academy Award nominations and won 0 Oscars. Okay, there were 2 Best Supporting Actresses. Whoopi Goldberg got nominated for Best, lead actress, for her debut performance in a film. Like, I've never heard of that. Like, Whoopi Goldberg's debut performance got her a Best Lead Actress Oscar. She would later win another Oscar. She would actually win an Oscar for her performance in Ghost, but she won Best Supporting Actress. But her first ever film role, she was nominated for Best Actress in Lead Role, which never happened before for a black leading actress. Now, we gotta say, Jennifer Hudson won Best Supporting Actress for Dreamgirls, and what was her first ever, film performance. Like, she never did a film before, and she won straight out the grip, you know. So it just goes to show you that there are performances that can stand and beat records and beat time. But I do think that The Color Purple is going to walk away with something this time. I just feel like, we looking back at nearly 40 years ago when Steven Spielberg directed that film, and look where it is now, and look at the history. I mean, the Tonys love The Color Purple. Both of the actresses that played Celie, LaChance, who was original Celie on Broadway, and then also Cynthia Erivo did the revival, and she played Celie. And both of those two women walked away with the Tony for Best Lead Actress in a Musical. So it is history that shows that those performances, from Celie to Shug Avery to Sophia, Miss Sophia, who, I want to be clear, Danielle Brooks plays Sophia in the film. These are just iconic roles that just are meaty and nuanced and complex enough that they always get recognition or nominations. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But keep your eyes open for that film for sure. But into music. There's been conversations about Andre 3000. He's on a flute now. Look, that man 48, I believe him. He said, listen, don't listen. Don't, he's like, look, I'm trying to do something different. Like, what do I have to rap about? What do I have to rap about? And I feel him on that. Like, what does he got to rap about at this point in his life? He's like, I'm not trying to be out here doing it just to do it. Which I can respect. Like, let this man grow. Let this man do what he do. I like his flute album, okay? I don't know how the charts are going to feel about it, but, I think that his flute album ain't that bad. It ain't hurt nobody. He's living his best life. His new album is called New Blue Sun, which is a flute album. It's got some nice little sounds. It's cool to type with and listen to. I mean, have fun, have fun. Other things that have been catching me. Drake's rapping again. I mean, look, Drake is just doing a lot. Drake's getting tattoos above his his eyebrows. He is just, I don't know. I feel like he's lost. I mean, he's doing a joint tour with J. Cole after initially saying he was going to take a break after this. But I feel like he's so pressed. I feel like he put out this mixtape, which I guess his rap is stronger, but he's rapping about stuff that just seems to be out of touch. Like, I don't know who, I don't know. There was a lyric I heard on social where he was talking about people worried about his mother's race and, America, white America. I was like, child, nobody's checking for you. You've never been in racial conversations. I don't know society. I don't know. Drake lives in a fantasy of his own, and I don't know what to do with him, so I just don't do with him at all. He's just so fucking weird. But he's going on tour with J. Cole, and I'm just looking at J. Cole like, But, I guess get the money, right? They're not in any really major cities. It's really weird. But they are going on tour, and I thought, oh boy, had stomach problems they had to address, but I guess that got resolved. I don't know if it's because of the plastic surgery he was doing. Like, there was speculation he did like fake abs or something to himself, and look, maybe that could have been the cause. I don't know. What do I know? But October's very own, and he is not a Libra, y'all. He is a Scorpio. Not judging Scorpios, just saying. And then loser of the week, which is a thing that I'm just saying. Partisan Fontaine, Meg Thee Stallion's ex-boyfriend decided that he wanted to do a diss track about her. And quite frankly, I just don't know why I guess, I don't know. Men in hip-hop have been trash. The 50th anniversary of hip-hop has been so distracting. I feel like we're in a situation where we might see the second major awakening of Me Too in hip-hop following the scandals around, what's his name? Russell Simmons, Now we're hearing about Diddy it's like, what's up, Dr. Dre? Of course, we can't forget about his abuse of Michelle. You got three of these big hip hop moguls that have been engulfed in controversy and scandal and abuse, and it's just like, and I just, party, like, what? Why do we care? I mean, there's talks about, and then what's funny is that social media, man, the internet be on it, right? Looking at Slim Thug, who was critiquing and had something to say about the whole Cassie settlement, and it's like now people are alleging and accusing that he left LaToya Luckett, who's from Destiny's Child, for his cousin and got his cousin impregnated, a cousin of his. I don't know if that's true, but people are pulling out the receipts, and it's like, see, this is why you gotta shut up and mind your business, because people are gonna remind people how fucked up you are if you out here trying to really go after innocent people. Like, no one asks for Slim. Why do we care what Slim Thug thinks about Cassie? Why? Why do we care? Like, I can't stay in the shade room. Like, why does the shade room feel the need to let us know what these randos think about these people and give them all this platform? I mean, it's just trash, yo. I just can't. But yeah, he did some diss track. The lyrics are corny. It follows suit into him perpetuating the same narratives and slut-shaming narratives about Meg. And quite frankly, dude, you cheated. You don't really deny the cheating allegations, You just kind of just want to just pile on. And it's just like, who cares? Next. So I watched The Crown, okay, season 6, part 1. Season 2 comes out December 14th at 3 a.m. That's on a Thursday. So I'm going to be watching that. That's going to be 6 episodes. This part 1 was only 4 episodes, which was really good because I didn't have to fall asleep. I watched all 4. When you get past 4 episodes, that's when I feel like it's like either I need to take a break or I just doze off. Like, I can't keep up after 4 episodes. But these 4 episodes go by really fast, and it's really bleak. I mean, it really shows the complexities of the royal family. There's no happy ending here. Princess Diana's death was so sad. And when you find out what happened in the last days and last months before her death, her untimely death, it is just even more just startling. Like, she just could not get a break. I mean, it just is so sad. Like, her life was in shambles towards the end of her life. Like, just the overarching press and paparazzi and attention, and also just the royal family straight up bitterness. You walk away really not liking the royal family. Like, I just feel more and more annoyed with them and their pompousness and their snootiness and their jealousy and their fighting. It's just like, who the fuck are y'all? Like, I'm not crazy about them. I really feel like I'm just kind of like, ugh, who cares? And just I don't know. Yeah, I feel like in many ways, this show is ending at a time where it should. I think I'm over all these royal dramas. I don't care anymore. I don't care. I don't care. I think The Crown will go down as one of the best TV series of the 21st century. And all the acting, the great performances in acting. This woman who plays Princess Diana this season, she's been consistently outstanding. A lot of people did not, the reviews have not been good about this. They say The Crown reaches its dramatic final series. The show, once a joy, has failed to right the terrible flaws of last season. But this is from BBC, so I don't know how much the Brits feel about this. I've heard different mixed reviews about the performance, but Elizabeth Debicki, I think, is incredible. Like, it feels like she's Princess Diana. Like, she's great. And someone, one of the critics said was Debicki's performance remains so wrapped in mimicry. She must have a permanent crick in her neck from bending her head to look up from under her eyelashes. Oh, it's wow. It's some brutal stuff. You know, it's, people say she's so, I mean, I thought she was good. But, people just there's a lot there's a lot of interesting things being said about this season. I personally like it. There's been a lot of interesting reviews. People say that they bungles Diana's death. There's issues with, how it turns Princess Diana's death into a cheesy melodrama. They talk about the creative choices to dramatize it. There's a lot that's being said about the show. Personally, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was fine. I liked it. I just don't know if we're finally in Princess Diana fatigue or real family fatigue at this point, given all the conversations, documentaries, musicals about Princess Diana's life. I mean, there was that film Spencer that came out about a year or so ago, about 2 years ago, with Kristen Stewart, who was looking like she was going to win an Oscar at one point in time, and then we saw how that played out. It's been interesting to see how the Oscars, all the Princess. There's been a lot of Princess Diana in our face. Kind of reminds me there was a period where there was a lot of Selena, right? But we always get obsessed over a fallen woman of prestige, and so I wonder if that's playing a role in some of the critique. But I personally enjoyed it, in my opinion. But speaking of untimely death, Rosalynn Carter, the former First Lady of the United States, has passed away at 96 years old. She is the wife of former President Jimmy Carter, who was an incredible American writer and an activist and did a lot of work on various causes. But mental health was one of her main, issues that she took up. She's a big deal. Jimmy Carter was the 39th president of the United States. But she was big on caregiving and women's rights and was iconic in her own right. She did a lot of work. She was a humanitarian. And even though Jimmy Carter only served one term as U.S. president, the work that she did was a big damn deal. She lived a long life, 96 years old. But she is still living. She still lives in the hearts of many people. And, Jimmy Carter and her have been married since 1946. Jimmy Carter, a Libra, he's 99 years old. His wife died at 96. Wow. He's one of the few living presidents. He's lived longer than Reagan. He's lived longer than George Herbert Walker Bush. And it's the only living presidents we have now is Jimmy Carter, who is now the oldest living president. We have Bill Clinton. We have George W. Bush. We have Barack Obama, we have Donald Trump, and we got Joe Biden. So, we got a couple left, right? Again, Jimmy Carter, 99 years old, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden. We got six living U.S. presidents. I can only imagine when you're at that age, you're 99 and your partner is gone. That's heavy. They were married since 1946. So if I do the math right, that is 77 years. 77 years they were married. They were married for 77 years. That's a long time. That is a long time. I couldn't even. Wow. Wait. Hold on. Oh, wow. Wait. Yeah, is it seven? It's 70. Yeah, 70 years. 77 years. Ooh, that's a long ass time. 77 years. um, my deepest condolences. It is not easy. But yes. So Thanksgiving is coming up and I am getting geared up for Thanksgiving. I'm not cooking. We're not cooking in this house. We're just not. We're having a cute little Friendsgiving. My brother's coming, Sharon, Jamarcus, Mr. Johnson. We're going to do a nice in-house Philadelphia Thanksgiving dinner. Miss Dawn's catering. Details from Miss Dawn. It's catering. I am not. Listen, I'm not even going to pretend. I'm having a cute little time. I'm going to cook. I'm not going to cook. I'm going to let someone else that can cook. I can cook, but I just don't feel like sweating this Thanksgiving. I just want to, let the pros do it. Heat the stuff up, do it right, get the catering together, and do my thing. I'm not beat for cooking. I have so many pies coming. So I got 3 pies from Cake Life Bake Shop, which is I'm getting a maple pie. I'm getting an apple strudel situation. I'm getting this vegan cranberry tart with graham cracker, whatever. It's going to be good. And then I am getting a sweet potato pie from none other than Omar Tate of Honeysuckle Provisions. He's making me a sweet potato pie that I'm going to devour because, if I'm going to get it, listen, there were no sweet potato pie options at Cake Life. But I like to get a sweet potato pie made from, a black baker because there's a type of soul in a sweet potato pie that I need, and I know he's gonna deliver. And so I just need a black person to make me a sweet potato pie. It's a certain way I like it done, and my greens gotta be a certain mac and cheese. But I'm super excited. So Thanksgiving is set. I'm gonna have a cute charcuterie board. I'm gonna put out my finest wine. When I finally drink this bottle that was given to me by my good Judy Kelly for my birthday. She got me a really, really nice bottle of red wine. And I am going to finally be able to put that baby in a good aerator and sip on that and have a good old time. So I'm excited personally. So I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. This is a long ass episode. I know y'all love when I do long episodes, but I was like, it's gonna be Thanksgiving, Black Friday, all that. So I figured that, I'm gonna give y'all a really good deluxe episode so y'all can get ready for the, the holiday season. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Like I'm in mode, okay? And I was like, y'all, what y'all doing? Y'all about to be off work. So y'all needed something to really, savor in before we get into the interesting part of this holiday season when we find out who's going to be the next Philadelphia commissioner and what other tea might drop, because I did not expect this week was going to be full of all these bombshells, but here we are. So as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.